Chapter 2553. Around an hour later, the place returned to peace and quiet. Qin Nan sat on the ground with his legs crossed. His body was emitting a mystical glow with a faint, terrifying aura suppressing the rift in all directions. Finally, I've achieved the Supreme Highness realm. Qin Nan's eyes sprang open. They flickered with joy. The Supreme Highness realm is indeed terrifying. Qin Nan clenched his fists and exclaimed when he sensed the power in his body. With this breakthrough, his body had undergone a tremendous change. First of all, his physique had metamorphosed to an unbelievable level. Even if it was just pure strength, it was enough to be comparable to a peak heavenly venerable. That being said, ordinary cultivator's flesh would not be so outstanding after achieving the Supreme Highness realm. Qin Nan was only able to achieve the same result because he had consumed 3 9 transformations immortal pills. Secondly, his body had changed too. The original power of the rules no longer existed. Instead, it had condensed into a crystal in his sea of consciousness. The crystal was refined with the will of the great heavenly art, the sacred manuscript of time and space, and many other arts of Tao seeking, and the purest power of rules. The Supreme Highness realm referred to those who had refined their own extraordinary rules. They were able to convert everything they had into their own power of rules. Qin Nan had yet to master the extraordinary rules of rules. He would have to wait until he completely refined the great heavenly art and merged it with his own power to consider it a success. On top of that, his divine sense and soul had improved too. They had been cleansed by an invisible force and the 9 transformations immortal pills. They had reached an unbelievable level. If Qin Nan had mastered the divine sense or the divine sense of his soul, he could easily take on an ordinary Supreme Highness. Lastly, it was worth mentioning that Qin Nan had taken 3 9 transformations immortal pills. As a result, he was now a Supreme Highness in the heaven-responding realm after achieving the Supreme Highness realm. He was only half a step away from the Supreme Tao realm. What a pity! If I could refine the 3 9 transformations immortal pills, I would surely achieve the Supreme Highness realm in the Supreme Tao realm, Qin Nan murmured. However, he did not know that he had greatly underestimated the 9 transformations immortal pill. The 9 transformations immortal pill was a supreme treasure that even immortal emperors would fight for. If he really refined it, he could easily surpass the Supreme Heavenly Venerate and reach the next level of ultimate Tao, let alone become a Supreme Heavenly Venerate. Of course, that was impossible. The power contained within the 9 transformations immortal pellet was simply too enormous. When Qin Nan swallowed it, most of the pill's power had already been lost. Otherwise, Qin Nan's body would have exploded. Congratulations, little friend. You've proven your Tao. At this moment, Master Xian walked out of the void and cupped his fists. Young friend, please leave with me. Qin Nan returned the greeting. Thank you, senior. Following Master Xian, Qin Nan returned to the main hall. There was already one person in the hall. It was Celestial Venerable Long Ruo. At this moment, he was sitting cross-legged and breathing evenly. There was a terrifying power slowly circulating within his body. However, the aura he emitted was still only that of a heavenly venerate. It was obvious that he had not succeeded in proving his Tao to become a supreme heavenly venerate. Qin Nan was not surprised. According to history, Celestial Venerable Long Ruo had not succeeded in the end. Senior, where's Brother Tian? Qin Nan asked casually. The young sect master is currently facing a very important inheritance. Master Xian said slowly. The young sect master said that when the time is up, he will come out no matter what and leave with all of you. Qin Nan nodded slightly and did not ask further. After all, this was a matter of the Great Evolution Heavenly Sect. As an outsider, it was not convenient for him to know. If he wanted to ask, he could only wait until he returned to the primary upper realm and ask the spirit of the celestial pole list. Qin Nan sat cross-legged and took out the pill recipes and alchemy techniques that Ming Daozi had given him. There were still a few days left. It was just enough for him to memorize them all. Time passed bit by bit. A day was soon gone. Suddenly, Elder Xian's expression changed. Not good. He quickly made a hand seal with both hands. Countless lines immediately condensed in the void and slowly formed a painted door. This painted door was a little different from the previous one. Qin Nan immediately opened his eyes and asked, "Senior, what's wrong?" Elder Xian did not hide and quickly said, "Your other friend is too obsessed. It is difficult to overcome the inner demon and there is a risk of him dying." Qin Nan was stunned. Ji Xian? What obsession does Ji Xian have? After saying that, Elder Xian did not delay and quickly stepped into the door. Qin Nan reacted and followed him in. Soon, the two of them landed in a world. This world was basically the same as the world that Qin Nan had entered previously. But now, the world had completely changed. The golden earth was dyed blood-red, and the blue sky was filled with giant demonic eyes. Monstrous demonic intent filled every corner of the void, as if it was an ancient demonic realm. At this instant, Ji Xian's figure had expanded to a height of 10 zhang. His body was flickering with a crimson glow. His eyes were filled with a frenzied murderous intent. "Damn it! Damn you! You're all trash! How could you abandon her so cruelly? She's not even 10 years old. She's only a child. Big Brother is your child. Isn't she your child too? Big Brother is inhumane. He's worse than an animal. Why are you siding with him? Just because he's strong? Just because he's a genius?" Ji Xian roared into the sky. He held a saber in his hand and slashed forward. The sacred heartland was influenced by his thoughts. Figures began to appear in front of him. However, the figures were not ordinary cultivators, but enormous demons with ferocious faces. How did this happen? Qin Nan's expression changed. Ji Xian's current condition was not an ordinary kind of serious. Chapter 2554. Young friend, please do something and suppress him. We can't let him continue killing and expand the demonic nature in his heart. Elder Xian wore a stern expression and said, "I'll have to do something. I'll attract the righteous qi and change the aura of the sacred heartland. For now, I won't be distracted." Qin Nan immediately reacted. He nodded and said, "All right." He swiftly made his move. He summoned an illusionary mountain that crushed down on Ji Xian. Ji Xian roared and turned into a demon. He slashed forward with his saber intent. Ji Xian's strength had skyrocketed after he turned into a demon. He was now comparable to a Heaven Highness in the Tao realm. However, a Heaven Highness in the Tao realm was like an ant in front of Qin Nan. The mountain that Qin Nan casually summoned was like the sky to Ji Xian. It immediately suppressed him. Elder Xian made his move too. He performed a mystical hand seal and uttered a cryptic chant. After a while, Elder Xian shouted the word "quick" as he grabbed forward with his hand. A vast expanse of space was instantly shattered, and streams of green qi in the shape of phoenixes surged out from within, disappearing into the world that was filled with surging demonic intent. Around 10 minutes later, the entire world had undergone tremendous changes. The sky had recovered its azure color, and the ground that hung in the air had become pure white. It radiated with a sense of holiness. Ji Xian, who was being suppressed by the mountain, immediately began to emit wisps of black qi as if he was being burned by a godly fire. He let out a painful cry. "Seal of the heavens and earth, dissipate the demonic intent." Elder Xian made his move again. He flicked his finger at Ji Xian. A golden seal over 100 feet wide with righteous qi entered Ji Xian's body. Bang bang bang! A series of explosions took place inside Ji Xian's body. Wisps of demonic qi scattered from his body and dissipated into nothingness in the air. After half the time it took an incense stick to burn, Ji Xian returned to his original state. However, Ji Xian's face was now pale and bloodless. His lips were still trembling slightly, and his aura had fallen to rock bottom. Ji Xian slowly opened his eyes and immediately saw Qin Nan and Lin Yun. His voice was hoarse as he said, "Little brother Lin, Senior Xian." Elder Xian shook his head and said, "Don't say anything. Everything is over. You just need to recuperate." Ji Xian nodded slightly, sat down cross-legged, and closed his eyes. Boss Xian waved his hand and brought him and Qin Nan back to the hall. He accidentally entered the demonic path and lost the opportunity to advance. Therefore, when the time comes, his cultivation will fall, and he won't be able to make a breakthrough in a short period of time, said Elder Xian. Qin Nan nodded and sighed in his heart. Ji Xian had not broken through to the supreme Empyrean realm. He was very clear about this. Otherwise, Ji Xian's name would definitely resound throughout the generations. However, he did not expect Ji Xian to fail in such a manner. Ji Xian? What happened to him? Empyrean Long Rua sensed something and opened his eyes. He was shocked when he took a look. He could be considered to have failed in his advancement, but a failure would not result in such a state. Qin Nan did not hide anything and told him everything that had happened. Empyrean Long Rua could not help but lament, "I really did not expect such a cheerful person like Ji Xian to have such a deep knot in his heart." Suddenly, Empyrean Long Rua seemed to have thought of something. A cold smile appeared on his face as he said, "Qin Nan, from what Ji Xian said just now, I think I know what happened." Qin Nan was startled. Empyrean Long Rua continued, "When you were with Ji Xian, I checked on him. Guess who Ji Xian is? He is the son of the current patriarch of the Ji clan." Qin Nan was confused. The Ji clan? He had never heard of this faction. Empyrean Long Rua said, "The Ji clan is not considered a major faction in the primary upper realm, but an extraordinary person has appeared in the Ji clan. You know this person too, that is Ji Tsang, also Ji Xian's elder brother." The moment these words came out, Qin Nan was immediately greatly alarmed. Ji Xian is Tsang's younger brother? He really did not know about this matter. Hang on. I remember that once, when I slew Tsang's will, I told Ji Xian that Tsang was my mortal enemy. Ji Xian said a sentence to me, but it was blocked by the power of spacetime. Could it be that Ji Xian was being honest with me back then? But why can I hear what Empyrean Long Rua said now? A thought flashed in Qin Nan's mind, but he did not think about it in detail, but hurriedly asked, "And then?" Empyrean Long Rua sighed lightly and said, "After Ji Tsang displayed his talent, he immediately became the glory of the Ji clan. As long as Ji Tsang has any request, the Ji clan will definitely agree to it." When Ji Xian was young, he got along very well with a distant little girl by blood, like brother and sister. I'm not too sure about the specifics. I only know that Ji Xian seemed to have provoked Tsang. Tsang casually told the Ji clan, and the Ji clan immediately executed this little girl in secret. From then on, Ji Xian's relationship with the entire Ji clan was very bad. Furthermore, there were many rumors that Ji Xian hated Ji Tsang very much. Qin Nan's eyes could not help turning cold. If it was really as Empyrean Long Rua said, then this Ji clan was really too much of a good-for-nothing. Just because of one sentence from Ji Tsang, a little girl was indiscriminately executed without distinguishing between right and wrong? How could they bear to do it? This way, Qin Nan somewhat understood the knot in Ji Xian's heart. The ones who harmed him were his biological brother, and also his biological parent. How could Ji Xian go and take revenge? If it were an ordinary person, Ji Xian would definitely think of all means. But under this layer of relationship, Qin Nan could not help sighing lightly in his heart. Ji Xian, Ji Tsang is my mortal enemy. After I return to the future, I'll definitely kill him personally. At that time, don't blame me. Qin Nan secretly thought in his heart. Following that, Qin Nan chatted with Empyrean Long Rua about the martial Dao, talked about the changes in transcendent Empyrean realm, and did not say anything else. Instead, he sat down cross-legged and continued to study pill formulas and so on. Chapter 2555. At this moment, the Great Evolution World Mountain was an extremely mysterious place. The place was surrounded by a light green color. If one looked into the distance, they would see some images appearing, disappearing, and reappearing at the end of the distance. If one could see these images clearly, they would be completely shocked. The images showed the sun and moon sinking into the abyss, the stars shattering, the world's spiritual energy drying up, and the rules of the Great Path withering. There were also images of an explosion creating a universe, a realm in chaos and flames in solitude. The meaning contained in each image was extremely terrifying and could not be comprehended by ordinary people. In such a place, the spirit of the celestial pole list sat cross-legged with its palms together, and 3 divine lights flickered on its body. In front of it was an illusory old man with white eyebrows. The old man also sat cross-legged with his palms together, and 3 divine lights flickered on his body. If Qin Nan were here, he would be shocked. Wasn't this old man the one who claimed to be the Great Evolution Sex primogenitor? Suddenly, the old man with white eyebrows and the spirit of the celestial pole list opened their eyes at the same time and looked at each other. A rare look of shock appeared on the former's face. I really didn't expect such a peerless figure to appear in the myriad worlds. Only even though it's just a memory, it's able to manifest the light of spacetime and include everyone who participated in the opening of the Arcanum, and what's even more terrifying is that you've destroyed everything that originally existed after you came in. Under such circumstances, it can still operate freely and change according to all of your changes. Even the awakening of the born Taoism aptitude and the great art of heaven fighting that I passed down can be encompassed. It encompasses everything. At this point, he was somewhat unable to continue describing it. Just what level had the so-called master of the Blue Dome reached? It's a pity that I died too early, and only a wisp of my will is left. Otherwise, I would really want to meet such a figure. The old man with white eyebrows thought of something and sighed softly. The spirit of the celestial pole list did not say anything. If it could, it also wanted to meet the master of the Blue Dome. However, it did not know if the master of the Blue Dome was still alive. Would I be able to see him once I entered the depths of the Blue Dome? The Blue Dome fell upon your great upper realm, severing your connection with the myriad worlds. It shouldn't be a disaster. The white-browed old man pondered deeply for a moment before he said, "If an expert of this level wants to harm your grand upper realm, then it would probably only take a single thought." The spirit of the celestial pole list nodded in agreement. Therefore, to you, the greatest opportunity is not in the Great Evolution Heavenly Sect, but in the depths of the Blue Dome. The white-browed old man said with a smile on his face, "If that's the case, I'll feel better about it. I suffered a lot." The spirit of the celestial pole list said helplessly, "Senior, there's not much time left. Can you take me there?" The white-browed old man curled his lips and said, "Young man, you really don't have any patience. Don't we still have 4 hours?" As he spoke, he stood up and walked forward with a mysterious footwork. The spirit of the celestial pole list followed closely behind. After the time it took to drink a cup of tea, the spirit of the celestial pole list felt her vision blur. The green light that filled the sky and the terrifying scenes disappeared, replaced by a small path. This path was suspended in the endless darkness, and it was 99 feet long. Every 10 feet seemed to be made of some kind of ancient divine stone. It emitted an ancient divine light, as if it wanted to illuminate the myriad worlds. It didn't completely materialize? The white-browed old man glanced at the endless darkness and immediately let out a sigh of relief. That's good. It seems that the master of the Blue Dome has not completely discovered the secret of the Great Evolution World Mountain. Otherwise, everything here will be manifested. A trace of curiosity appeared in the spirit of the celestial pole list's eyes. What was the secret of the great evolution world mountain? Even a terrifying powerhouse like the master of the Blue Dome was unable to discover it in the end? The white-browed old man no longer spoke. His expression gradually became serious as he formed a seal with both hands. After a long time had passed, in the boundless darkness, a tide suddenly surged, rumbling with noise. This was a pure tide of darkness. Come. The white-browed old man said in a low voice, make your choice. However, I have to remind you that once you make your choice, you won't have the chance to regret it. After all, when your true body comes to the myriad worlds, the mysteries left behind on the great evolution world mountain will probably vanish into thin air. The spirit of the celestial pole list bowed to the white-browed old man. Thank you, primogenitor. As she spoke, she walked forward and made her choice. The white-browed old man sighed. There was some admiration, but there were also some other complicated emotions. As a person, I agree with your choice. However, as the sect master, I don't think so. It seems that the inheritance of our great evolution heavenly sect will really be completely destroyed in this world. The white-browed old man sighed. Fortunately, he kept his promise and passed the great heaven fighting technique to others, leaving a backup plan. Why can't I reverse the situation? The spirit of the celestial pole list was speechless. Things in this world can't be perfect. The white-browed old man shook his head. The more heaven-defying it is, the more difficult it is. The more powerful it is, the more it will lose. The spirit of the celestial pole list didn't speak anymore. Instead, she stretched out her hand and drew a line in front of her. A huge crack immediately appeared in the void. Through this crack, one could see a large hall. Qin Nan and the other two were sitting cross-legged in the hall, resting with their eyes closed. The spirit of the celestial pole list walked in without turning back. When the crack was about to close, the spirit of the celestial pole list's voice sounded. I don't think I'm doing anything heaven-defying. I just want to follow my heart. If this is really heaven-defying and it has to bring me hardship, then I'll accept it. If I lose, I have nothing to say. If I win, then there will be perfection in this world. The white-browed old man was slightly stunned and couldn't help but laugh. He had clearly existed for tens of thousands of years and could be considered an old monster, but he was still young and hot-blooded. Chapter 2556. The Ancient Era, the Blue Dome, the Upper Mystic Realm. A huge explosion suddenly took place between the heavens and earth. An ancient seal descended from the rift with a formidable aura. The terrifying creatures close to the Emperor's slaying platform trembled as if they had just encountered their Emperor. They uttered all kinds of groans in fear. It's about time for them to return. Wu Di stood on the seal and murmured. Not long after, four towering beams of divine light suddenly rushed out from the dazzling river of light in front of them. Wu Di's eyes glittered. He grabbed forward and grabbed the 4 rays of light onto the seal. They were Qin Nan, the spirit of the celestial pole list, and the others. Right at this moment, a sudden change occurred. The light of the Emperor's slaying platform shattered into pieces as if it had received a heavy blow. It turned into countless light dots drifting in the sky like a rain of light. The terrifying existences in the upper mystic realm and the intermediate mystic realm were startled. They lifted their heads and scanned the place with their divine sense. What's going on? Why did the Emperor's slaying platform shatter into pieces? The terrifying existences were astounded by the sight. They could not believe it. Roar. Many creatures that had yet to achieve the Supreme Highness realm let out furious roars when they realized what had happened. Their voices echoed in the sky. Their path of cultivation had been cut off. Wu Di, what did you do? At this time, a monstrous aura suddenly rose from the east of the upper profound region. A chain entwined with countless divine lights was faintly discernible in the distant sky as it let out a stern cry. "Damn it, don't you dare accuse me, I didn't do anything! The Emperor-slaying platform broke into pieces as soon as I arrived," Wu Di snapped furiously. He immediately made up his mind when he sensed several tremendous auras awakening in the distance. He immediately tore the rift apart. "Wu Di, stop right there!" A series of roars could be heard. A moment later, in the boundless darkness, the figure of the vast dragon heaven-verifying seal slowly appeared in front of a vermilion door. "Fortunately, they can't chase us out." Wu Di gloated for a moment before glaring at Qin Nan and the spirit of the celestial pole list. He gnashed his teeth and said, "What the hell did you guys do in there? Why was the Emperor execution stage broken? Do you know about the execution stage? What does it mean to some living beings?" This time, everyone saw it appear near the Emperor beheading stage. They would definitely think that it was the one who did it. When the time came, they would definitely find trouble with it. Although it wasn't afraid of trouble, it was still in the wrong. Qin Nan and the other three were stunned by the scene just now. They didn't expect that such a big thing would happen right after they returned. It was only after hearing Wu Di's words that they finally realized what was going on. The spirit of the celestial pole list said awkwardly, "Maybe it's because I obtained the inheritance of the Great Evolution Heavenly Sect?" "What did you say? You've become the successor of the Great Evolution Heavenly Sect?" Wu Di was shocked. How could this guy be so talented? TSK, not bad. If that's the case, it doesn't matter anymore. Wu Di's anger dissipated. He winked and said, "What's the inheritance of the Great Evolution Heavenly Sect? Give me some of it." You saw it too, the entire blue dome was shaking. Countless living beings were enraged. "However, as long as you give me something good, I'll settle the matter for you. What do you think?" The spirit of the celestial pole list straightened its expression and said, "Brother Wu, you're being too polite. Why do we need to say such things between us? Don't worry, when I obtain the inheritance, I already planned to give you something good." Wu Di immediately smiled. "Ha ha ha, you're not bad. Alright, since that's the case, we're brothers from now on. I'll take care of you." Qin Nan and the others were dumbfounded. They did not expect the spirit of the celestial pole list to be so good at building relationships, establishing a deep friendship with Wu Di in just a few words. The spirit of the celestial pole list immediately said, "Brother Wu, I've just returned from the space-time light. It's the best time for me to have a breakthrough. Allow me to cultivate in seclusion for a while, and I'll give you the inheritance after I'm done." "Alright, you can have a breakthrough here. I'll stand guard for you." Wu Di waved his hand and created a dazzling Dao field in the boundless darkness. The spirit of the celestial pole list quickly expressed its gratitude, then flew to the dojo and sat down with its legs crossed. At that instant, a majestic aura burst out from its body. A shocking force began to surge inside its body. In essence, the space-time light was only an illusion. No matter what one did or suffered in it, everything would return to normal when they returned from the space-time light. For example, the spirit of the celestial pole list had awakened the innate Tao aptitude in the space-time light and become a supreme highness in the Tao aptitude realm. However, when it came out, it was still a heaven highness in the heaven response realm. However, the martial arts and forbidden arts that the spirit of the celestial pole list had learned in the space-time light and everything that it had experienced would not disappear. In other words, the spirit of the celestial pole list had the experience of awakening the innate Tao aptitude in the space-time light and becoming a supreme highness. Now that it was starting over, it would be able to awaken the innate Tao aptitude and break through again very quickly. In simpler words, if a Supreme Highness was reborn as a Heaven Highness, it would not be difficult for it to become a Supreme Highness again. After all, it was already familiar with the mysteries of the Supreme Highness realm. Of course, if it really wanted to become a Supreme Highness, the spirit of the celestial pole list would still need a grand occasion. However, this was very easy to do in the Blue Dome. After all, there were all kinds of powerful beings in the Blue Dome. As long as they were triggered and gathered in one place, it would be logical for them to break through. At that moment, apart from the spirit of the celestial pole list, Qin Nan, Ji Xian, and Heavenly Venerate Long Ra all felt a faint, majestic force rising in their bodies. Although Ji Xian and Heavenly Venerate Long Ra had yet to become Supreme Highnesses, Ji Xian had become a Heavenly Venerate and was at the Heaven Response realm. Heavenly Venerate Long Ra had also broken through to the Heaven Response realm. Chapter 2557. Ji Xian and Heaven Highness Longra expressed their gratitude and flew to the altar. Qin Nan's eyes flickered. He immediately performed a hand seal. Suppress! He groaned. The power of rules in his body immediately turned into runes that filled his meridians, sealing off half of his body. Brother Lin Lao, what are you doing? Why aren't you having a breakthrough? Didn't you achieve the Supreme Highness realm? Wu Di asked curiously. It's true that I've ranked up, but… Qin Nan gathered his thoughts, but before he could finish his sentence, he suddenly sensed an illusionary force descending from the sky, striking his soul continuously. Qin Nan was startled. He executed the space-time sacred scripture to stabilize his soul. It was the power of time and space. It was trying to expel his soul that did not belong to this era. It was trying to return his soul to the era he was supposed to be in. Wu Di squinted. Even though he had no idea what had happened, he could still sense Qin Nan's soul shuddering vigorously. Phew! Qin Nan let out a sigh and said, Wu Di, I won't lie to you. I don't belong to this world, and this body isn't mine, either. I'm afraid I won't be able to stay in this primary upper realm for long. Upon saying this, Qin Nan was startled. That was right. This body wasn't his. This body was one of the 100 great god bodies, the Xiantian martial flesh. What kind of physique would his real body be in the future? Or perhaps his real body in the future was just ordinary, without any physique? Having this thought, Qin Nan stopped thinking about it. He did not really care if he had the god body or not. Wu Di was shocked. He blurted out, Holy crap! You're from the heavens and realms? Qin Nan thought to himself. This guy really knows about the heavens and realms. He forced a wry smile and said, Wu Di, I'm sorry. I can't tell you the details. Wu Di reacted and said understandingly, I was being rude. There are a lot of things that I can't tell you. I understand this feeling very well. Speaking up to this point, he was slightly depressed and said, In other words, you won't have a chance to get me when the time comes, kid? Qin Nan couldn't help but smile and say, That's hard to say. Wu Di was stunned for a moment. Then, he suddenly thought of something. Since this guy came from the myriad worlds, took over someone else's body, and continued to exist in the primary upper realm, in other words, this fellow's true body would most likely come from the myriad worlds in the future? This was indeed very possible. It was also possible that the Blue Dome had already begun to appear in the myriad worlds. All right, then I'll wait for you, kid. When do we have to leave? Wu Di asked. 10 more days. Qin Nan replied, then fell into deep thought. It was impossible for him to do nothing and wait for the space-time power to send him back after 10 days. The most important thing he had to do now was to figure out what to do with his current physical body. His current physical body was quite extraordinary. It was one of the 100 great divine bodies, the Xiantian martial body. Although it had yet to awaken, it had great potential. Moreover, after Qin Nan took over this physical body, his cultivation had risen to the peak heavenly venerable realm, and he had encountered many fortuitous encounters. In terms of physical strength alone, it was incomparably powerful. In his physical body, especially in his sea of consciousness, There were many profound auras left behind by his breakthroughs. It would be too much of a pity to destroy it just like that. If he could keep it and take it out in the future, he could refine this physical body into his clone, which would increase his strength by a lot. However, where should he put this physical body? A normal place would definitely not do. Tens of thousands of years would be enough to corrode the physical body, causing it to lose all its mysteries. First, it had to be a place filled with various kinds of pure energy. He didn't have to improve his physical body, but he had to at least ensure that his physical body wouldn't be corroded. Secondly, he had to find an excellent place to be safe. Otherwise, what if someone took it away? It would be even worse if Tsang got it. Should I put it there? Qin Nan thought of a place. It was the magical place where the 10 celestial highness trees were born. The existence guarding that place possessed an unimaginable cultivation. Perhaps it was only slightly weaker than the spirit of the celestial pole list. That place won't work. The celestial tree knows the way to enter it. What if it goes there again in the future? Qin Nan soon rejected the idea. There were too many uncertainties. Suddenly, Qin Nan looked at the person before him. Brother, what's wrong? Why are you looking at me like that? Just say it. Wu Di's hair stood on end under the gaze. Cough cough, Qin Nan said embarrassedly. There's something I have to trouble you with. When the time comes, can you hide my flesh inside the vast dragon heaven-verifying seal after I leave? If I want to return to the primary upper realm, I'm afraid I'll need a physical body. A physical body in the primary upper realm. Wu Di shook his head without hesitation. No way. What kind of place is inside the vast dragon-proof seal? How can I let your physical body in? Wu Di suddenly thought of something and said with a smile, All right, you can put your physical body in there. I'll take good care of it for you. Qin Nan had a bad feeling. Seeing this, Wu Di immediately patted his chest and promised that apart from Qin Nan himself, no one would be able to take away his physical body. Qin Nan thought about it carefully and finally agreed. Currently, in the primary upper realm, only the vast dragon-proof seal was reliable. Wu Di, I'll have to trouble you to stand guard here for them, Qin Nan said. After dealing with his physical body, he had other matters to attend to. Chapter 2558. Although it had only been less than a year since he left, the divine martial sect had changed quite a bit. From afar, there was a hubbub of voices. In the city, there were many people drinking tea, discussing Tao, and fighting each other. Anyone who saw this scene would feel an invisible aura rushing towards them, as if this was the only martial Tao holy land in the primary upper realm. Regardless of whether one was strong or weak, as long as one came here, they would definitely be able to improve their martial Tao and break through their shackles. Qin Nan sighed softly in his heart. Before coming to the ancient era, Senior Zhou Xuandao and the others had told him about some of the major events that happened in the ancient era. When they mentioned the divine martial sect, they didn't go into detail, but the general result was that after the spirit of the celestial pole list was killed by Tsang, the divine martial sect was furious and stood on Zhou Di's side. In the end, they were completely destroyed in the terrifying flames of war. Qin Nan shook his head and didn't think too much about it. He sent a few divine thoughts. A moment later, in the forbidden area of the divine martial sect, Heavenly Venerate Zi Hao, Ancestor Mingqiu, and Gu Fei came one after another. Qin Nan, what happened? Why is the power of time and space repelling so violently? Ancestor Mingqiu asked quickly. Qin Nan was slightly stunned. Because of him, Ancestor Mingqiu also had to return to the future in advance? Xiaoji, what's the situation with your trip? Heavenly Venerate Zi Hao didn't know that the two of them were communicating and asked quickly. Qin Nan glanced at the ancestor and said, The woman that Brother Tian likes is from the Blue Dome. She encountered a calamity. In order to save her, we went to the immortal divine steel and then to the Blue Dome's upper mystic realm. Now, Brother Tian is about to attain the supreme heavens, supreme body. He briefly described the process. Heavenly Venerate Zi Hao's mind was shaken as he blurted out, "The Blue Dome can become a supreme Heavenly Venerate?" He had been at the peak Heavenly Venerate realm for many years. Qin Nan coughed and said a little awkwardly, "Senior, we caused too much of a commotion in that place, so that place was destroyed." Emperor Zi Hao's eyes immediately became bitter. However, he wasn't disappointed. He was still a bit excited. The spirit of the celestial pole list had broken through to the supreme Empyrean realm. Then, would the day of them breaking through to the supreme Empyrean realm still be far away? At this time, a gust of wind blew over. Chen Fenghua was wearing a Taoist robe. He had a faint smile on his face as he stepped through the air. His aura was ethereal like that of an immortal. In the past half a year, he had made quite a breakthrough in the Book of Tao sealing. "Brat, calling us over this time, could it be that there's some good thing?" Emperor Zi Hao's heart stirred slightly as he asked. After all, he was a peak celestial venerable and was not familiar with ancestor Mingqiu and Gu Fei. Calling them together would only make things awkward. Qin Nan would definitely not make such a mistake. "Everyone, I've come here this time." Qin Nan organized his words and said solemnly, "I'm afraid I have to leave the primary upper realm for now." Gu Fei was shocked and said, "Big Brother Lin, you're leaving? Where are you going? Return to the secondary lower realm?" Qin Nan shook his head. Emperor Zi Hao knew some of the situation and said a little hesitantly, "When can you come back?" Qin Nan mused for a while and said, "I need a very long time before I can come back. There's a possibility that after parting this time, we won't be able to meet again." The moment these words came out, Gu Fei's heart trembled violently. Emperor Zi Hao also received a considerable blow. Chen Fenghua's expression was also stunned. Only after a long while did Emperor Zi Hao let out a sigh and said, "Although you've been unwilling to tell us your identity all along, this old man really didn't expect that you're actually going to leave the primary upper realm for so long. Did you tell Big Brother Tian about this?" If Big Brother Tian knew about it, talking up to here, he shook his head and said, "Forget it, I'm still very reassured about your character. Since you want to leave, I believe that you have some reason against your will. It can't be entirely your fault." A hint of a smile surfaced at the corners of his mouth. "Since you're going to leave, this old man will treat you all, these juniors, to a farewell wine today. How about it?" Following that, Emperor Zi Hao brought over many immortal brews. The few people sat on the ground, chatting idly as they drank. It was also not just because of the alcohol but also because of other reasons. That farewell atmosphere was not very strong. Instead, following Qin Nan mentioning the various things he saw and heard in the Emperor slaying stage, the atmosphere became fervent. Even Emperor Zi Hao also completely did not have the reserve of being a senior, asking all sorts of questions. Time gradually flowed by, the sky darkened very quickly, stars dotting the sky. Qin Nan picked up a cup of immortal wine, toasted Chen Fenghua, and said with a sigh, "This time, I'm really sorry. I already have an idea for the Great Harmony Heavenly Arts lower part. But I'm unable to deduce it together with you and perfect it." Chen Fenghua shook his head with a smile and said, "Why is there a need for this? Isn't there still a few days? Of course, if you really feel bad, tell me your thoughts for the lower part these few days. I'll deduce it alone in this Tao book. You can carry out perfection on the other side. When you return in the future, we'll look at each other's methods. How about it? Just treat it as a small competition. The winner will treat me to a drink." Qin Nan's heart moved when he heard this. Chen Fenghua's martial talent was not much inferior to his at all. In addition, with the help of the Tao book, he could definitely perfect the lower part. At that time, when he returned to the future, wouldn't he be able to find what Chen Fenghua left behind? Suddenly, Qin Nan thought that he could indeed obtain the method that Chen Fenghua left behind, but at that time, how would Chen Fenghua see the method that he deduced? After the holy celestial martial sect was destroyed, how would the Tao book continue to exist? Chen Fenghua saw his expression darken and immediately guessed something. Are you afraid that when you return, things will already be the same, but people will already be different? Qin Nan nodded. Things would definitely be the same, but people would still be different. So what? Even if I can't wait for your return, my method can wait. Chen Fenghua smiled faintly and said, the two of us met by fate and became friends through martial arts. My method still remains, and your method still remains. Why is there a need to be sad? Xiao Ji, in my impression, you are an open-minded person. There's no need to be entangled in these details. Even if we are separated by the ends of the world and can't meet again in this lifetime, so what? Since ancient times, righteousness has always been in the sky. Qin Nan's heart trembled, and he suddenly understood. The next day, he bowed to Heavenly Lord Zi Hao and sent him off. He patted Gu Fei's shoulder and left a jade slip without saying a word. He walked into the Tao book and used 3 days and 3 nights to tell Chen Fenghua his thoughts for the lower part. At the same time, he also set the name of the lower part. Cultivation method, great same as heaven art. Upper part, celestial part. Chapter 2559. The two went to Ancestor Mingchu's residence. Ever since he came to the Holy Heaven Martial Sect, Ancestor Mingchu had been cultivating and making friends with the powerhouses of the major forces. With the help of the major forces, he asked them to pay attention to whether there were any cultivators who had risen abnormally in the past few decades. He was trying to find the patriarch of the Sherdao tribe who had returned to the ancient era with them. Ancestor Mingchu went into a secret chamber and took out a few dozen scrolls. He scanned them carefully and said, "This is the latest information. There are many people who are worth investigating. What do you think?" Qin Nan nodded. "Let's go then." The two turned into rays of light and disappeared into the rift. On this day, Qin Nan's footprints were all over the 33 heavens, small immortal realms. 6 hours after the two set off, they checked everyone and confirmed that it wasn't the patriarch of the Sherdao tribe. The two sighed in their hearts. Judging from the current situation, the old man who had made up his mind was most likely dead. It was too late. If he died in the ancient era, he would die in the future too. 8 hours later, Qin Nan arrived at an ancient mystical realm. He stood at the foot of a mountain and gazed into the distance. There was a woman and a few men there. They were the first friends that Qin Nan had made since he came to the ancient era. 10 hours later, Qin Nan came to a dangerous place. He saw a man holding a halberd in the distance. He was suppressing a few dozen cultivators with the same cultivation with an imperious aura. In the 6th hour, Qin Nan arrived at an ancient city. He saw a scholar sitting on a donkey while holding a Buddhist scripture in his hand, drinking a bottle of wine in a carefree manner. At the 14th hour, Qin Nan glanced into the distance like an ordinary person. He saw Tsang sitting on the main seat with a smile on his face as he explained the scriptures with a sacred aura like that of a saint. 18 hours later, Qin Nan passed by a place with a strong demonic aura. It had formed a world of its own. A magnificent figure was standing there with an imperious aura. 18 hours later, Qin Nan saw a terrifying figure at the foot of an indescribable mountain. He was talking and laughing with a group of soldiers. He was eating meat and drinking wine without putting on any airs. Qin Nan also saw the ruler of heart, the celestial tree, and the others, but he was only a passerby. He quickly walked past them without disturbing them. He was only a passerby in the ancient era too. The 5th day dawn. Qin Nan suddenly sensed something. His eyes emitted rays of light. They crossed the rift and saw the Crimson Gate. The first Supreme Highness of the primary upper realm. Qin Nan murmured. He entered the rift with ancestor Mingqiu when a thought entered his mind. Meanwhile, Song Tsang, Zhou Di, Huangfu-ju, Yi Zhaoxian, and a few peak Heaven Highness realm cultivators scattered in the Nine Heavens Immortal Realm, and Zhou Xuandao of the Undying Cycle Mountain looked into the sky with a confused look. What was that strange fluctuation just now? What was going on? However, after a slight ponder, they realized it was coming from the place where the Heaven Terminus leaderboard was located. They immediately forgot about it. A moment later, the Blue Dome, the upper profound realm Qin Nan arrived. He immediately brought his fists together and said with a smile, "Congratulations, Brother Tian, for achieving the Supreme Highness realm." At this very moment, the spirit of the heavenly ranking radiated with divine light from head to toe. Although the pressure had already been completely restrained, there was still a faintly discernible aura that overflowed in all directions, causing many of the living beings in the upper profound realm to shiver. Their faces were filled with fear. Heaven Highness, Supreme Highness, the difference between the two words was like the difference between heaven and earth. What's there to congratulate me for? I'm only a Supreme Highness in the ground knowledge realm. The spirit of the celestial pole list waved his hand and let out a sigh. It's different from the light of space-time. I'm a Supreme Highness who can't achieve the Tao realm right away. Even though he was sighing, he did not seem to be discouraged. After all, he had experienced the wonders of the Tao realm. He just needed some time to return to the Tao realm. Wu Di rolled his eyes and said, "Heavens, aren't you being a little too full of yourself? Why aren't you satisfied after achieving the ground knowledge realm? Do you think you're the master of the Blue Dome?" Qin Nan glanced at him. The spirit of the celestial pole list transmitted its voice into his divine sense and said, "We have no idea what secrets are hidden in the Blue Dome. We have no idea what the Heavenly Dragon Seal, the Immortal Steel, and the others are planning. I have the innate talent. Don't tell them about the Taoist physique. Just keep it as a backup." Compared to the terrifying beings in the Blue Dome, the spirit of the celestial pole list's only advantage was that he had the innate Taoist physique, one of the top 10 innate physiques. Qin Nan understood. He suddenly thought of something and asked, "Brother Tian, can you awaken the innate Taoist physique?" He had just thought of one thing. Was the spirit of the celestial pole list killed by Tsang because the spirit of the celestial pole list had awakened the innate Taoist physique in the light of spacetime, but not in the primary upper realm? If that was the case, it would make sense. After all, after Tsang became a supreme celestial venerable, he was quite extraordinary. There was a slight chance that he could kill the spirit of the celestial pole list. The spirit of the celestial pole list looked at him strangely and said, "Why do you ask? I will definitely awaken. I have already awakened once. If I want to awaken again, of course it will be easy. However, this place is not the place of awakening. We still have to wait. After reaching the celestial pole list, we will set up a trap to prevent everyone in the Blue Dome from knowing." Qin Nan was silent. Everything was back to a dead end. How did Tsang, who had just become a supreme celestial venerable, kill the spirit of the celestial pole list, who had the innate Taoist physique and was on the celestial pole list? Don't be discouraged, kid. I'll help you awaken the innate martial physique later. Your innate martial physique is not simple. It has a lot to do with the innate physique. You might be able to transform into the innate physique. The spirit of the celestial pole list patted Qin Nan's shoulder. Qin Nan was slightly taken aback. The spirit of the celestial pole list knew about the innate martial physique? Just as he was about to ask, Wu Di urged, "Don't waste time. Let's hurry to the immortal divine steel. I haven't played with I for a long time." Chapter 2560. As soon as Qin Nan and the others arrived at the immortal tablet, a brilliant golden glow burst out of it and formed a path. They saw Old Man Zhuxian and Progenitor Yukong standing on the left and right of the path. "Greetings, Senior." The two of them first bowed to Wu Di before looking at the spirit of the Heavens Pole leaderboard. They clasped their hands together and said, "Congratulations, fellow cultivator. You have entered the realm of supreme heavenly venerate and begun the path of the Emperor." Progenitor Yukong continued, "It's a great thing that you've achieved a breakthrough. Why don't I hold a banquet for you after we're done here? What do you think?" His eyes flickered as if he was really trying to recruit the spirit of the Celestial Pole list. The spirit of the Celestial Pole list nodded with a smile without hesitation. "Thank you, Cultivator Yukong." Old Man Zhuxian's expression remained the same. He smiled and said, "Fellow cultivator of the Celestial Pole ranking, let's go and save them." Under the guidance of the two weapon spirits, the group soon arrived at the place where the immortal Emperor eyes were. Qin Nan could sense how terrifying the place was after the trip to the space-time light. Its power had far surpassed the level of a Supreme Highness. He wondered what the immortal Emperor eyes were. Were they the eyes of an expert, or were they created by the heavens and earth, or were they created by the Master of the Blue Dome? At least, judging from Wu Di's attitude, the eyes were on par with the vast dragon heavenly seal, Qin Nan thought. Old Man Zhuxian looked at Wu Di and said respectfully, "Senior, please suppress the forbidding aura here to prevent unnecessary trouble." Wu Di said generously, "It's just some mediocre forbidding aura. I'll suppress it in no time." He controlled the vast dragon heavenly seal to fly into the place and unleash a terrifying power to suppress the place. Qin Nan was still astounded when he saw the vast dragon heavenly seal in action again. If it weren't for the strange rules in the Blue Dome, if he could fully activate the vast dragon-proof heavenly seal after obtaining it in the future, it would be enough to destroy everything in its path. Fellow Taoist on the Heaven Pole roll, it's up to you now. As for the immortal Emperor eyes in front of you, if you use your heart to call out to her, you'll definitely be able to sense her remaining spirit," said Old Man Zhuxian. "Okay." The spirit of the Celestial Pole list glanced at him and responded faintly. Then, it immediately sat down cross-legged. He didn't look into the eyes of the immortal emperors. Instead, he closed his eyes and all the thoughts in his mind disappeared. Only a beautiful woman with a sweet smile appeared in his mind. At this moment, Old Man Zhuxian looked at Qin Nan and said with a smile, "Young friend Lin, you seem to have gained a lot from this trip. I have a talisman here, keep it well. I'll transmit my voice to you once I've decided on the successor of the immortals." Progenitor Yukong harumphed disdainfully. Qin Nan was about to reject the offer, but Old Man Zhuxian seemed to know what he was thinking. He said, "Young friend Qin, there's no need to reject the offer so quickly. You can think about it when I tell you my thoughts." Qin Nan found it inappropriate to reject the offer. He couldn't possibly tell Old Man Zhuxian that he was about to return to the future, right? Qin Nan put the talisman away and made up his mind. He would give it to Ji Xian if the space-time force didn't hinder him. Time gradually passed. Around 5 hours later, the spirit of the Celestial Pole list's breathing gradually intensified. He saw that within the boundless darkness, Meng Li Er's figure was illusory. Her beautiful eyes were closed, and a wisp of a faint smile hung on the corners of her mouth. There wasn't the slightest fear, and she emitted a weak white light, like a divine flower that was about to wither. Old Man Zhuxian immediately transmitted his voice after being aware of it. "Cultivator Tian, if you sense Meng Li Er's presence, you can use her belongings and the art of soul summoning from the primary upper realm to retrieve her." The spirit of the Celestial Pole list was long prepared for it. It immediately took out a jade bracelet and unleashed its aura while performing a hand seal. Even though Old Man Zhuxian did not mention anything else, the spirit of the Celestial Pole list immediately used a forbidden art as a safety precaution. It burned its primary force to unleash the power of an ancient art known as the Yellow Spring Soul Summoning Art to an unbelievable level. At that instant, the yellow spring chi spread across the place. A faintly discernible yellow river appeared behind the spirit of the heaven's pole leaderboard, and the low chants of countless demon gods could be heard from it. Reincarnation reversal, soul summoning art. The spirit of the celestial pole list groaned. Thousands of illusionary yellow hands burst out from the yellow spring and grabbed at the eyes of the immortal emperors. Progenitor Yukong's eyelids jumped. His figure tensed as he prepared to run for his life. If the spirit of the celestial pole list ended up infuriating the eyes of the immortal emperors, then, the eyes of the immortal emperors did not react. They remained still. When the yellow hands were about to land on them, a godly glow burst out of them and shattered the hands into pieces. The expression of the heaven pole ranking's spirit changed. After that, he saw that there was still one last giant hand remaining. It was safe and sound as it entered the depths of the immortal emperor's eyes. It entered the mysterious darkness and directly grabbed Meng Li-er's illusory figure. The spirit of the celestial pole list let out a relieved sigh. It rose to its feet and yelled, "Come here!" A ripple appeared in front of it. Following it, a flesh identical to Meng Li-er appeared. However, there was no sign of life in it. It was emitting a godly glow with 5 different colors. A wisp of primary force was flowing inside its body. It was flowing. A flesh forged with the primary force and the 5 elements' godly glow? Old Man's Wuxian and Progenitor, Yukong nodded slightly. The flesh was quite impressive. Enter the new flesh. The spirit of the celestial pole list gathered its attention and guided Meng Li-er's illusionary figure into its body. The body began to vibrate vigorously. The primary force inside it began to flow rapidly, producing a series of whooshing noises. Half an hour later, a wisp of life force burst out of the body. Even though the life force was extremely weak, as if it would be extinguished at any second, it was like a wisp of flame in the darkness, giving the people a glimpse of hope. "She's alive," Qin Nan frowned. Chapter 2561. Qin Nan's heart skipped a beat. He lifted his gaze and saw the spirit of the celestial pole list glaring at him while emitting a brilliant glow. A shocking aura was accumulating above him, as if it was going to attack at any second. Wu Di stood on top of the ancient seal, suppressing thousands of gods and devils. He was like the emperor of the heavens. His gaze was cast over, filling the sky with majesty. Progenitor Yukong and Old Man Wuxian were startled. The latter immediately brought his fists together and asked, "Cultivator Tian, why are you so angry?" The spirit of the celestial pole list uttered a hollow laugh and said with a thunderous voice, "Why am I angry? Can't you tell? Even though Li-er is full of life, she doesn't have a soul. She doesn't show any sign of waking up." Qin Nan took a closer look. It was just as the spirit of the celestial pole list had mentioned. Meng Li-er's eyes were closed and her face was expressionless. Even though her body was full of life, it still felt like she was dead, as if she had fallen into a deep slumber and would never wake up. Progenitor Yukong's eyes glittered. He snapped, "How dare you, Wuxian? How dare you trick my brother?" He was infuriated too. His aura burst out and shook the surroundings, as if he was really mad at the spirit of the celestial pole list. Old Man Wuxian burst out laughing upon seeing this. He said, "Cultivator Tian, there's something you don't know. Regardless, Meng Li-er is still the spirit of the immortal emperor's eyes. Even though the spirit has returned to the immortal emperor's eyes, she is still tainted by it. It contains the aura of the immortal emperor's eyes. Now that she has taken over a new body, it's only natural that she has to go to the primary upper realm to nurture her soul so that she can slowly awaken." Wu Di said thoughtfully, "My heavens, that old man does have a point." The spirit of the celestial pole list withdrew its aura upon hearing this. However, its expression remained cold. "How long will it take for her to wake up?" Old Man Wuxian pondered and said, If we start from the primary force of the 33rd small immortal realm and continue to nurture it in the first small immortal realm, she will awaken around the 2050th year of the Saint Heaven calendar. Qin Nan's pupils shrank slightly. 2050 years. It was that year that the spirit of the celestial pole list issued a strange mission. It was also around that year that a golden-eyed girl was killed. In the end, he couldn't be resurrected, Qin Nan murmured to himself as he glanced at old man Zhuxian. A trace of coldness flashed in his eyes. Why did Meng Lier die in the end? It was obvious that this old man Zhuxian was hiding something, or had left something behind, which even the spirit of the celestial pole list could not handle, and could only watch Meng Lier die. Good. If she still hasn't woken up in 2050 years, I'll come and find you, the spirit of the celestial pole list said coldly. It immediately withdrew Meng Lier's body with a god glow. Of course, old man Zhuxian said with a smile. Brother Wu, let's go, the spirit of the celestial pole list said. Wu Di glanced at old man Zhuxian. He unleashed his aura and left with Qin Nan and the others. Old man Zhuxian's eyes flickered as he watched the scene. He did not even bother with progenitor Yukong, who was laughing coldly beside him. A while later, outside the Blue Dome, how is it? Ji Xian and Heaven Highness Long Ra asked when they saw the spirit of the celestial pole list approaching them. Her body has been reconstructed and her life force has recovered. She's only waiting for her 3 immortal souls and 7 mortal souls to awaken, the spirit of the celestial pole list said softly with a gentle gaze. The ancestor of Mingchu, who didn't follow, glanced at Qin Nan. Seeing him nod slightly at him, the ancestor of Mingchu sighed softly and didn't say anything. Even though he was clueless about the situation, he could sense something strange about it. That's good. That's great news. Ji Xian said excitedly. Brother Tian, why don't you open up the origin force and let us cultivate in it to celebrate the resurrection of your partner? The spirit of the celestial pole list rolled its eyes and ignored him. However, Qin Nan saw the spirit of the celestial pole list's eyes flickering coldly. I believe Brother Tian is aware of it too, Qin Nan mumbled to himself, as a sense of helplessness rose within him. He knew the outcome, and that it was a trap, yet he could not warn Brother Tian, nor could he change his mind. He could only watch it happen. Qin Nan quickly shook his head and calmed himself down. Brother Tian, Ji Xian, Senior Long Ra, there's something I need to tell you. I have to leave. Ji Xian was stunned. Where are you going? Qin Nan said calmly, to leave this world. Ji Xian and Heaven Highness Long Ra's faces froze. The spirit of the celestial pole list's body trembled slightly. If you want to leave, then get lost. I'm annoyed just looking at you. The spirit of the celestial pole list waved its hand, not caring at all. Ji Xian and Heaven Highness Long Ra instantly understood and said in shock, could it be that you came from the heavens? Qin Nan did not wait for them to finish and immediately said, I can't say this. I'm really sorry for hiding it from you. However, I have no choice. I can't tell you the truth. The atmosphere stiffened. Wu Di twisted his lips and said, isn't it just leaving? What's the big deal? It's not like we won't see each other again in the future. Alright, let's find a place to drink. He swallowed his saliva as he spoke. Following it, another banquet took place. The atmosphere was lively. Ji Xian sealed his cultivation and drank until his face was red. Before he fell to the ground, he hugged Qin Nan's shoulder and said with a muffled voice, Brother, what do you think I should do? I want to take revenge, but can I do it myself? Can I kill myself? My parents? Kill my own brother? That's impossible. Sigh, to be honest, I've had a good relationship with many people over the years. However, you're my only brother. Gu Fei is only half a brother. Don't go and never come back. I'll wait for you. Qin Nan was silent as he gulped down mouthful after mouthful of wine. In the end, Qin Nan was also a little drunk. He walked to the side of the spirit of the celestial pole list and said in a low voice, "Brother Tian, old man's Wuxian." The spirit of the celestial pole list looked at the sky with cold eyes and said, "If Li is alive, I will repay him. If Li dies, he will die. It will be a fate worse than death." Qin Nan was silent for a long time before he said in a low voice, "Brother Tian, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I can't tell you everything. I'm sorry I can't change the ending." The spirit of the celestial pole list's coldness faded away as it smiled and said, "Why are you apologizing to me? When did you become so polite? Isn't it just going to the myriad worlds? What's so great about that? Once I awaken, I'll kill my way to the myriad worlds. I'll drag you out. When the time comes, see how I'll deal with you." In the end, the spirit of the celestial pole list told him about the connate martial body. However, Qin Nan did not choose to awaken it. Together, parting. The 10th day arrived. Qin Nan sat cross-legged on the vast dragon-proof seal. He looked up at the sky and felt the power of time and space surging towards him like a tide. Qin Nan took a deep breath. His eyes gradually sharpened and his aura gradually became stronger. He was regretful that he could not tell the spirit of the celestial pole list everything. However, after he returned, he would definitely investigate the deaths of the spirit of the celestial pole list and Meng Li, also Ji Tsang and Yi Zhaoxian. Chapter 2562. In the future, the Nine Heavens Immortal Realm. It had been a year and 6 months since Qin Nan and the others left for the ancient era in the forbidden land of the Sherdao tribe. During this time, the Nine Heavens Immortal Realm seemed to have recovered from the shadow of the terrifying battle in the ancient era. The flames of cultivation were reignited. Many masters of Tao entered the battlefield of God Aura to benefit from the rules of the battlefield of God Aura. More rulers of Tao were born. Every day or two, there would be news about a master of Tao breaking through to the ruler realm. The rulers of Tao were no longer referred to as authorities, but experts instead. As such, both the disciples of formidable factions and the rogue cultivators in the Nine Heavens Immortal Realm, who had achieved the Heaven Immortal Realm, Peerless Ruler Realm, and Nine Heavens Supreme Realm, were greatly motivated. They immediately made their way to the First Immortal Realm. They were willing to take a huge risk to search for fortunate encounters so they could achieve the Master Realm as soon as possible so they could enter the battlefield of God Aura. This was because they knew very well that they didn't have much time left in this tense situation. The balance between the heavens and earth was still maintained, but once Tsang and Yi Zhaoxian achieved the Supreme Highness Realm, the balance would be broken. It was very likely that the battle between the Supreme Highnesses that had wreaked havoc in the Nine Heavens Immortal Realm was going to happen again. If they wanted to survive the calamity, they had no choice but to do everything they could to improve themselves. Meanwhile, in the Undying Cycle Mountain, the Sky Taihuang sect, the Heaven Illusionary Ancestor sect, the Taiqing Ancient sect, the Sherdao tribe, and many other factions had reorganized themselves into a new faction. The only Heaven Highness Ling Huang, was not involved in any of the affairs. She would only spend a day every month on the fifth heaven to conduct a lecture. The rulers of Tao and Princess Miao Miao, Jiang Bailan, and Xue Mengyao were in charge of the affairs. At the fourth heaven, in an immortal palace, Jiang Bailan was wearing a white dress. Her black hair reached her waist, and her jade-like fingers were tapping on the void. That exquisite face of hers was devoid of any expression. She was not angry at all. On the other side, Princess Miao Miao wore a golden silk dress and a pair of golden bracelets on her fair arms. She was no longer as mischievous as before. She was no longer young and inexperienced. Her expression was focused, noble, and mature. Reporting. Taoist Zhuo Ming had fallen into a trap in the 15th small immortal realm. He was surrounded by 10 masters of Tao. They have already sent word that if we don't show enough sincerity, they will kill one of us every 2 hours. Reporting. Zhang Nan, Wild Taoist, Yu Hang, and the rest of the masters of Tao were surrounded by various factions on the battlefield. Fortunately, the Li clan and Wang clan's alliance secretly helped us, and we were able to escape without any life-threatening danger. However, we have completely lost our chance. Reporting. More than 10 disciples in the Heaven Immortal Realm were surrounded by various factions and rogue cultivators when they entered the Xuanca mystical realm. All of them died. None of them survived. News after news kept coming in from the outside. The voices of the people who passed on the news were filled with coldness and anger. Jiang Bailan pointed her finger forward expressionlessly. Her lips moved slightly. Ask Taoist Lin Ming and the others to negotiate with them. Try your best to satisfy their demands. It doesn't matter if we lose some resources, our priority is to keep them alive. Ask Zhang Nan and the others to return to the Undying Cycle Mountain first. They shouldn't go to the battlefield of Divine Aura for a month. Princess Miao Miao pointed her finger forward and said coldly, "It doesn't matter who is after us, we will carve their names on the eternal oath boulder. We might not be able to trouble them now, but it doesn't mean we won't in the future." Half an hour later, the two finally finished dealing with the news. Princess Miao Miao let out a sigh. The situation is getting more and more difficult. What? Over the past year, with the exception of a few forces, almost all the other forces had made a move against them. They were trying to intimidate Yi Zhaoxian by suppressing and killing them. No? Even so, Yi Zhaoxian continued to issue orders, causing most of the rogue cultivators in the world to view them as enemies and attack them one by one. Jiang? Bailan leaned back slightly and said softly, "The situation is complicated, but it's within our expectations. It's something we have to face. However, what I'm most concerned about is that Song hasn't shown up for a year and a half. I don't know. Besides, our people are being oppressed by many factions. If we can't find a way to sneak into the battlefield of Divine Aura, we will be in a more passive position." Princess Miao Miao smiled upon hearing this. "I'm sure Sister Shui can do it." Meanwhile, in the Sherdao tribe, over the past year, the people of the Sherdao tribe had been targeted by the royal tribe of immortal spirits and other ancient tribes. Many of them had died. However, the remaining people of the Sherdao tribe did not feel hopeless. Instead, under the circumstances, they were more aware of the problem they were facing. They were even more determined than before. Besides, there was still hope in their hearts. Patriarch, a ruler of Tao of the Sherdao tribe, looked into the distance as he recalled something while he was treating his injuries. The forbidden area of the Sherdao tribe was in his sight. It was completely sealed. Even though the fairies and heaven highnesses had been visiting the place for a year, it had never been opened. The reason being that it was where their hope was. However, what he didn't know was that when he withdrew his gaze, in the sealed forbidden area, there was a huge commotion. A vigorous suction force burst out from the withered body, sucking in all the power of the natural treasures. Chapter 2563. Meanwhile, in the forbidden area, as all the natural resources were absorbed, two powerful auras burst out and swept the entire hall. Qin Nan's will to return to the ancient era had finally returned to his body. Before Qin Nan could inspect his surroundings, he immediately sensed a powerful force emerging from his body on its own, which surged across his body like a rolling river. Qin Nan's current body had only achieved the peak ruler realm. However, he had surpassed the Heaven Highness realm and became a Supreme Highness in the Heaven realm after he went to the Ancient Era. He was a Supreme Highness in the Heaven realm. As a result, as soon as Qin Nan returned to his true form, his understanding of the power of rules and the secrets of the various rules immediately improved his body, allowing it to evolve. Qin Nan immediately closed his eyes and executed the heavenly chant of the great samsara and the sacred scripture of space and time. Even though Qin Nan's body did not possess the flesh of origin, nor was it marked with the power of time and space, Qin Nan's understanding of the two arts did not change at all. Even though he was cultivating from scratch, he could still improve rapidly. He only needed some time to reach the peak again. Meanwhile, in the undying cycle mountain, bang! An ancient pattern suddenly soared into the sky above the fifth layer. It was the ownerless heaven pattern. When Qin Nan went to the ancient era, the ownerless heaven pattern did not stay in Qin Nan's body. After all, they would have a hard time after Yi Zhaoxian achieved the Heaven Highness realm. As such, it had remained in the undying cycle mountain. It was used to assist Princess Miao Miao and the others. Whoosh! Following it, rays of light descended and turned into a figure. It was none other than Zhou Xuandao. Their sudden appearance immediately alarmed the sovereigns. One by one, the sovereigns raised their heads in confusion. Grandpa Zhou, Grandpa Jiayi, what are you? Princess Miao Miao and Jiang Bailan looked at them in confusion too. I can sense something strange happening to Master's body, Jia Yi said sternly. Me too, Zhou Xuandao said sternly. What? Something strange happened? Princess Miao Miao, Jiang Bailan, and the rulers of Dao were startled. The same thing had happened more than a year ago. It was the weapon spirit of the Shi Dao tribe's patriarch Xiang Yuan's weapon. More than a month later, the weapon spirit of the Shi Dao tribe let out a roar and shed tears of blood. This was because it sensed that Xiang Yuan's vitality was completely gone. Apparently, he had fallen in the ancient times, causing his physical body to be damaged little by little. Xiao Nanzi will be fine. He will be fine. Princess Miao Miao's face turned slightly pale as her figure trembled slightly. The noble aura she had displayed was completely shattered at this instant. If Qin Nan is dead, the rulers of Dao's hearts sank too. Without being exaggerating, Qin Nan was the only person that could stand a chance against Song and Yi Zhaoxian. He was also the reason why the factions were willing to put aside their differences and form an alliance. If Qin Nan was dead, it would be the end for them. Don't panic yet, Zhou Xuandao said. We still don't know what's going on. Either way, let's head to the forbidden area at once. The place can't be sealed off any longer. We have to open it by force. Princess Miao Miao tried her best to withhold the pain in her heart. She forcibly calmed her thoughts and said, Seniors, please come with us. Please don't spread the news until we know what's going on. Zhou Xuandao immediately made his move. A glow encapsulated the crowd and teleported them out of the undying cycle mountain. Meanwhile, in the forbidden area, as Qin Nan continued to execute the art of heavenly assimilation, his body underwent a shocking change. The indestructible flesh of eternity and the art of the immortal demon that had completely merged with each other collapsed simultaneously. A shocking aura burst out and collided with one another. There's no need for you to merge with each other. Let's split up. Qin Nan unleashed his powerful divine sense, allowing the two to regain their senses. The collision between the two intensified. It felt like Qin Nan's flesh was going to be destroyed. You are my flesh, my art. Why are you still arguing with one another? From today onward, my heart shall control everything. Qin Nan unleashed his powerful will. Wisps of primary aura flowing in his body swiftly entered his divine sense. They merged with Qin Nan's will and formed an illusionary figure. The figure sat with its legs crossed and unleashed a tremendous force to suppress the auras of the indestructible flesh of eternity and the art of the immortal demon. At that instant, a new aura burst out from Qin Nan's body. Even though Qin Nan had taken over Lin Xiaoji's body after he returned to the ancient era, it was the innate martial flesh, one of the 100 great godly fleshes. It was related to the 10 great innate fleshes too. However, before Lin Xiaoji's body was awakened, it was incomparable to Qin Nan's. Qin Nan's body had once merged with the remains of the divine god of battle. He had also mastered the indestructible flesh of eternity and half of the art of the immortal demon. He had mastered the arts of Tao seeking. It was a lot better than Lin Xiaoji's original condition. It was unknown how much stronger Lin Xiaoji was. As such, when Qin Nan returned to his body with everything he had experienced in the ancient era, he had a new opportunity. He was going to use the great Samsara heavenly chant as his core art. He was going to use the great Samsara heavenly chant to control the other arts. It was not necessary to merge all the flesh and arts together to make them stronger. It was even possible that he would not be able to unleash their full potential. However, it was the perfect way to utilize the full potential of Qin Nan's power. Phew! I'll have to explore the small immortal realms of the 33 heavens again and absorb some of the primary force to complete the flesh of origin, Qin Nan murmured. His aura calmed down as his eyes sprang open. A huge blast took place all of a sudden. The forbidding aura ahead was shattered into pieces by a destructive force. Zhou Xuandao, Cassiopeia, Princess Miao Miao, and the others immediately flew out of the place. Chapter 2564. Princess Miao Miao screamed in surprise. She leaped into Qin Nan's arms with a flicker and hugged Qin Nan's waist tightly. Her noble temperament that made others stay away from her completely vanished. Jiang Bailan's eyes seemed to be glittering. She came to Qin Nan's side and said softly, "Husband, thank you for your hard work." Meanwhile, the people who came reacted. Jia Yi immediately brought his fists together and said joyfully, "Welcome back, Master." Qin Nan, congratulations. Phew, friend Qin Nan, you gave me quite a scare just now. The rulers of Tao were overjoyed. Qin Nan had successfully returned from the ancient era. It was great news for them. They finally had a piece of good news after more than a year. Zhou Xuandao looked at Qin Nan and stroked his beard. He said gently, "Not bad, you didn't let everyone down." Right at this time, a shocking aura suddenly came from afar. A ray of light flew over and turned into heaven Venerable Ling Huang. He looked at Qin Nan and ancestor Mingqiu with joy and said, "You're finally here. How's your trip to the ancient era?" Everyone's heart skipped a beat when they heard this. They were curious and slightly nervous. The reason why Qin Nan and the others were willing to take such a huge risk and head to the ancient era was because there was no way they could defeat Song and Yi Zhaoxian in the current primary upper realm. In that case, did Qin Nan become stronger in the ancient era? How much stronger was he? Had he already walked that path? Cough cough. Do you guys only have Qin Nan in your eyes? I've been standing beside him for a long time. Why hasn't anyone come to congratulate me? Ancestor Mingqiu pretended to grumble. He then straightened his face and cupped his fists. He cupped his hands and said, "Thank you for your hard work while we were away. Although I am a good-for-nothing, Qin Nan did not disappoint your expectations." Qin Nan's expression also became serious, and he patted Princess Miao Miao. The latter understood tacitly, and obediently left his embrace. Her beautiful face flushed red. Qin Nan cupped his fists and bowed to the crowd. "Fortunately, I did not fail the mission and successfully attained the Supreme Empyrean realm." These short words were like a thunderclap in the ears of everyone present. Even Cassiopeia and Zhou Xuandao, who had weathered countless storms, were shocked and in disbelief. When Qin Nan and the others went to the ancient era, they had high hopes for Qin Nan. They had hoped that Qin Nan could learn a lot of arts of Tao seeking and grow stronger in 100 years. If he was lucky enough to achieve the Supreme Empyrean realm, it would be more than enough. They did not expect Qin Nan to achieve the Supreme Empyrean realm, not because they thought Qin Nan's talents were not enough, but because history was already set in stone. It was impossible to change it. There were only 4 Supreme Empyreans in the primary upper realm. There was no 5th Supreme Empyrean. However, did Qin Nan really succeed? Besides, why did Qin Nan not leave any trace in history after he achieved the supreme Empyrean realm? I'll tell you the details once we're back. Qin Nan looked at one of the rulers of Dao. It was a member of the Shi Dao tribe, one of the few rulers of Dao left in the tribe. Senior, can you gather the people of the Shi Dao tribe? Qin Nan asked softly. Ugh, sure. The ruler of Dao nodded after collecting his thoughts. He quickly flew away. A moment later, Qin Nan looked at the people of the Shi Dao tribe with a stern look. He bowed and said, The Shi Dao tribe is my master's tribe. I'm greatly indebted to it. I, Qin Nan, hereby swear that as long as I'm alive, I will protect the tribe. I will protect the Shi Dao tribe for a day. The people of the Shi Dao tribe immediately recalled their patriarch and the magnificent figures that had fallen to the ground over the years. Their eyes reddened, but they did not shed any tears. They had let go of their pride, but they did not let go of the strength and pride in their bones. Qin Nan and the others returned to the undying Cycle Mountain. The news of Qin Nan's trip to the ancient era had been kept a secret. Apart from the people of the Shi Dao tribe, only the people of the Master Realm and above knew about it. It was to prevent too many people from knowing about it. It would attract a huge trouble. It was a huge trouble. Qin Nan faced the crowd and explained everything that had happened since he had returned to the ancient era. That being said, he did not mention many details. What a pity, the space-time light is gone. Otherwise, the primary upper realm wouldn't be in such a state, Heaven Highness Ling Huang exclaimed. Based on what you said, Tsang shouldn't have been able to kill the spirit of the celestial pole list with his strength. Zhou Xuandao frowned. That's right. Qin Nan nodded and said, Senior, did you feel anything strange during that time? Did Zhou Di say anything? Zhou Xuandao shook his head and said, Not really. I did feel the presence of the spirit of the celestial pole list dissipating in the primary upper realm. Besides, Zhou Xiao died soon after its death. The first great war of the primary upper realm took place just like that. Qin Nan let out a sigh and said, If that's the case, I guess we can only find the answer from Song. Qin Nan withdrew his thoughts. He turned the arts of Dao seeking he had seen at the sacred martial sect and the knowledge he had comprehended on his own into a ray of light and fired it at Heaven Highness Ling Huang and the others. Heaven Highness Ling Huang and the others were overjoyed. They quickly immersed themselves in the light. Even though Qin Nan was their junior, Qin Nan had already become their senior in terms of cultivation. Chapter 2565. Qin Nan was startled. He asked, What exactly is going on? Qin Nan was not surprised. Mo Xie and the others were bold enough to harm his senior brother in the battlefield of the Heaven Highnesses. It was normal for them to harm the people close to him. However, he immediately began to worry. He did not know if he had fallen in love with Rodeo, but he was sure that Rodeo had left a mark in his heart. Princess Miao Miao withheld her anger and said, Sister Meng Yao isn't in any danger now, but Mo Xie and the others have found out where she is. Once they spread the news, even if they don't do anything, Sister Meng Yao will still be in danger. That's right. Qin Nan let out a relieved sigh. He asked, Where is she now? Why can't she leave? Princess Miao Miao let out a sigh. She rubbed her face and said, Xiao Nanzi, you might not know this, but after you returned to the ancient era, Yi Zhaoxian has been targeting us. For example, all cultivators have to go to the 10 immortal factions to enter the battlefield of God Aura. They have to use the path of Heaven's supervisor to prove their identity. Even though it's possible to enter the battlefield of God Aura after paying a certain price with Grandpa Zhou and Grandpa Cassioppa's help. However, Yi Zhaoxian had also done something else. He had set up 9,000 points in the void of the divine aura battlefield. 999 eyes of the heavens. It's a kind of artifact. It will immediately notice when someone achieves the ruler realm. It will transmit the scene to Yi Zhaoxian. Besides, you won't be able to destroy it. Once you break it, it will attach a wisp of aura to you. Therefore, you won't be able to get rid of it anytime soon. As such, many cultivators in the Master Realm were killed mercilessly by Yi Zhaoxian after they achieved the Ruler Realm. To solve the problem and prevent the same from happening in the Battle of Heaven Highnesses in a few months, Sister Mengyao volunteered to go to the battlefield of God Aura alone. A cold light flashed in Qin Nan's eyes. Yi Zhaoxian was worthy of being one of the 4 supreme Empyreans. Her methods were impressive, and she did not give them any chance at all. What did Mo Xie and the others say? Qin Nan asked again. Princess Miao Miao picked up a command medallion and flicked it with her finger. Demon Lord Wutian's voice rang out, "Please tell my master that Rodeo ruler Xue Mengyao is also in danger. If he doesn't contact me within 3 days, Hegemon Rodeo's identity will soon be exposed. Oh, it's best if you don't try to let Rodeo escape. Otherwise, it'll be even more dangerous." Qin Nan narrowed his eyes. "You're in danger too? How many times have they done this to us?" Jiang Bailan said softly. "He has done it 15 times. He has captured 10 Masters of Tao, 8-9 Heaven Supremes, 12 Peerless Rulers, and 109 disciples below the Heaven Immortal Realm." Qin Nan's eyes widened. "None of them managed to save them? They won't accept any other conditions. If you don't follow their instructions and arrive at a certain place on time, they will make their move right away. There's no room for negotiation. They were all dead." Qin Nan's eyes emitted a red flicker. A terrifying murderous aura burst out of his body. "How nice." A smile appeared on Qin Nan's face. "My past life did leave me a few loyal subordinates." At that instant, Zhou Xuandao said after a slight hesitation, "Qin Nan, there's one more thing. To be more precise, Mo Xie and his men have targeted us 18 times. However, the first 3 times, Mo Xie gave us some slight changes, so much so that we mentioned it. We didn't let them succeed because we noticed it beforehand. Since then, we haven't received any messages from Mo Xie. It's always Demon Lord Wutian. According to our speculations, Mo Xie and Demon Lord Wutian's group must have had a disagreement. Mo Xie must have been sidelined. If it were someone else, it would most likely be the Heaven Highness of the Demon Path." Qin Nan recalled the strange message that Mo Xie had transmitted to him last time. After a brief silence, he said in a calm tone, "If I'm not mistaken, he was the one who initiated the attack on my senior brother." Qin Nan said, "If they want to lure me over, let's do as they wish." Cassiopeia immediately blurted out, "Master, please be careful. They must have guessed that you're trying to master the flesh of eternity as soon as possible to suppress Huang Fuju's flesh, so you won't be affected by Huang Fuju. They're planning to." Cassiopeia did not finish the sentence. He had already realized that it was useless even if he tried to persuade Qin Nan. Qin Nan looked at him and said with a smile, "Senior, don't you worry. I'm no longer the same person I was a year and a half ago." Cassiopeia was slightly startled. Only then did he realize that Qin Nan was a supreme celestial master, who had reached the level of his previous life. Qin Nan took the token and transmitted a message to it. Not long after, a demonic light shone from it and condensed into the illusory figure of Demon Lord Wutian. "Greetings, Master." Demon Lord Wutian immediately bowed to Qin Nan respectfully when he saw him. "Why do you have to be so hypocritical?" Qin Nan said lightly. "Master, I don't know what you're talking about. In my heart, you're my master." Demon Lord Wutian raised his head. Although his face could not be seen clearly, one could feel that he was smiling. "It's just that we couldn't wait to see you return. So, we couldn't help but use some tricks when we saw you return." His smile was full of sarcasm. "But, Master, you're still as hard-hearted as ever. I really admire you. So many people have died, but you're not moved at all. Now that only one person has died, you can't sit still anymore. He suddenly thought of something and said in a frightened voice, I deserve to die. I've misunderstood you. I forgot that you happened to be in seclusion. You just happened to come out now. Zhou Xuandao, Cassiopeia, and the two girls all had cold eyes. Qin Nan said expressionlessly, Cut the crap. Where do we meet? Chapter 2566. An hour later, the 19th small immortal realm, the East Ocean, a figure suddenly walked out of the rift. The breeze from the north to the south was blowing at his blue robe. Qin Nan had come alone. Princess Miao Miao and Jiang Bailan wanted to tag along, but he rejected them. As more people showed up, Demon Emperor Wutian and the rest of the demon cultivators were even more cautious. Demon Emperor Wutian and his men had long set up a trap to deal with the people Qin Nan had brought. Secondly, if something were to happen, they would only become a burden to Qin Nan, distracting him from his work. Qin Nan executed the art of the immortal demon. His eyes turned pitch black as he scanned the surface of the ocean. After a few breaths, he saw a wisp of extremely faint demonic intent looming in the depths of the sea ahead. A moment later, he arrived at the location of the demonic will. The seawater here had already turned a deep shade of black. In front of him, there was a mountain range that stood quietly, like a dormant giant dragon. At that instant, the water around Qin Nan began to vibrate vigorously, as 23 powerful auras appeared not far away from him. Qin Nan turned around. The person leading the group was an old man in a red cloak. Even though he had a smile on his face, he still looked menacing. Qin Nan immediately saw through the man's cultivation. He was a Heaven Highness in the ground perception realm. He was the only Heaven Highness among the demon cultivators, Heaven Highness 4 Demon. Beside Heaven Highness 4 Demon were Demon Emperor Wutian, Supreme Ruler Canlang, the City Lord of the City of Darkness, and the rulers of Dao. Among them, Demon Emperor Wutian, Supreme Ruler Canlang, the City Lord of the City of Darkness, and 10 others were peak rulers with formidable auras. The other 11 were in the greater success stage of the ruler realm too. However, Qin Nan was startled when he saw the last person. The last person was none other than Mo Xie. He was wearing a black robe. His back was slightly hunched. He was the only peak master of Dao among the demon cultivators. As his eyes met Qin Nan's gaze, his figure shuddered slightly as his eyes flickered. However, his eyes quickly became murky again, as if there was no light in them. Greetings, Master. Heaven Highness 4 Demon, Demon Emperor Wutian, and the others bowed. However, the 4 Demon Heavenly Lord was different from the others. Other than clasping their fists and bowing, the others would bend their backs slightly, as if they were bowing. However, the 4 Demon Heavenly Lord only clasped his fists and bowed. Don't mention it. Qin Nan waved his hand and said with a calm smile, It seems like our demon cultivators have developed well over the years. According to their alliance's intelligence, there were only 10 sovereigns among the demonic Dao cultivators 2 years ago. But now, that number had doubled. Master has woken up. The flames of the demon cultivators will surely be reignited. Demon Emperor Wutian said with squinted eyes, Master, you might not know this, but in addition to us, the number of demon cultivators has increased by more than 10 times. Supremes, peerless rulers. Before he could finish, Heaven Highness 4 Demon chuckled and said, Wutian, let's not talk about the details here. He turned to Qin Nan and said, Master, there are only 3 to 4 months left until the next Heaven Highness battle in the battlefield of God Aura takes place. To make sure you don't make it in time, please come with us to the shaman platform to sense your avatar. What do you think about it? Qin Nan ignored him. He looked at Mo Xie and said, If I want to sense the avatar, I have to focus on it. If I'm distracted, I won't succeed. Therefore, you should send Rodeo back to the undying cycle mountain first. Why? Emosia was startled. The rest of the demon cultivators were startled too. Anyone could tell that something had happened to the demonic path. Emosia, one of the 10 immortals, had long been suppressed. He was no longer the one in charge. However, Qin Nan was asking Emosia the question. It was obvious that Qin Nan was not treating Heaven Highness 4 Demon and Demon Emperor Wutian seriously. Master, Heaven Highness 4 Demon is talking to you. Why aren't you responding to him? A young man with a pale face and emitting a green glow said coldly. Do you think I need to ask what I'm doing? Piss off. Qin Nan glared at him. His voice shook the surroundings like a clap of thunder. The young man's expression shifted. His eyes emitted a green glow like flames. Qin Nan, don't you dare act so presumptuously. Didn't you keep delaying because you want to master the indestructible flesh of eternity so you won't be affected by our master? You're not the only one. You're the real master. The rest of the demon cultivators looked at Qin Nan coldly. In their hearts, Qin Nan was Qin Nan. He was not the immortal demon Highness Huang Fu Ju yet. In the blink of an eye, the atmosphere between the two sides became tense, with undercurrents surging. How bold! Heaven Highness 4 Demon snapped. A terrifying aura burst out of his body and covered the area within a few thousand li. Everyone apart from Qin Nan felt their hearts sink. They were having a hard time breathing. Heaven Highness 4 Demon looked at the young man and said coldly, Our master is our master. He always has his reasons for doing anything. How dare you speculate? Piss off. The young man's expression stiffened, but he did not say a word. He glared at Qin Nan and flew into the distance. A smile appeared on Heavenly Venerable 4 Demon's face again, and he said, My lord, I deeply agree with what you said just now. However, it will take some time for us to make our move. Once our master ascends the shaman platform, we can let Rodeo return to the heavenly cycle, the undying mountain. Why don't we make our move now? What do you think, Moxie? He glanced at Moxie again. Moxie lowered his head slightly to avoid Qin Nan's gaze. After a moment of silence he said, Master, I think so too. Qin Nan said expressionlessly, Let's do it. Chapter 2567. The original mountain range had turned into a dark passage that seemed to lead to a mysterious world. Qin Nan followed the 4 demon heavenly venerables and the others into the passage. After a while, he saw that it was an independent space filled with endless demonic intent. For any demonic cultivator, this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Earth. In addition, there was a giant city shaped like a black tortoise floating in the demonic space. This city seemed to have experienced countless battles. The city gates were broken and the city walls were covered with various mottled scars. The streets and palaces in the city were extremely dilapidated, causing one to feel that it was incomparably rotten and lifeless. However, Qin Nan immediately noticed a stone platform with a circumference of over 1,000 zhang at the center of the city. The surface of the platform was engraved with all kinds of runes, which resembled a painting with a faint smile at first glance. However, upon taking a closer look, it was as if the person was smiling. However, it also looked like there were countless demons standing there. Qin Nan felt a familiar aura from it. He immediately activated the immortal demon art. The ancient and silent stone platform seemed to have received some sort of summon as it emitted rays of yellow light. A desolate-like aura spread out from it, causing the bodies of the 4 demon heavenly sovereign, Demon King Wutian, and the others to tremble as they sensed it. It was a supreme majesty. A fiery light flashed in the 4 demon heavenly venerable's eyes as he said, My lord, when you see this witch magic altar again, do you think of anything? Qin Nan shook his head. At this time, Demon Monarch Wutian couldn't help but recall, This witch magic altar was built by my lord after he became a heavenly venerate. He spent countless heavenly materials and earthly treasures to remember the demon ancestor. Then, after my lord became a supreme heavenly venerate, he brought the demon sacred artifact from the blue dome and combined it with the witch magic altar, giving the witch magic altar a mysterious power. Even in that terrifying battle, it was not damaged at all. The four supreme heavenly venerables had used all their means in that battle. The witch magic altar was not damaged at all in that monstrous battle. From this, one could see how powerful the witch magic altar was. Qin Nan couldn't help but be taken aback. Was it made to commemorate Lord Demon Ancestor? In this great upper realm, how could there be a devil ancestor? If one really had to say, wasn't that him? Qin Nan's expression instantly became strange. However, I didn't expect Huang Fuju to have such a treasure. These supreme heavenly venerates are indeed very wealthy. Lin Fan muttered to himself. Qin Nan thought to himself. When the four demon celestial venerable saw Qin Nan's strange expression, he thought that Qin Nan was extremely tempted by the treasure and wanted to take it for himself. He couldn't help but smile and said, "My lord, you shouldn't have any ideas about him for the time being. If you want to use the witch magic altar, you need to merge with your Dharmakaya. After that, only after mastering the art of the immortal demon to perfection will you succeed." He paused for a moment and said, "My lord, there's no time to lose. You should ascend the witch magic platform and circulate your cultivation technique. Even though you can't use the witch magic altar yet, it should be able to help you sense the presence of your Dharmakaya." Qin Nan nodded. He landed on the witch magic altar with a flicker. However, he was not in a rush to sense the presence of his Dharmakaya. He said calmly, "My thoughts are still in a mess." Many demon rulers of Dao grinned coldly, but they did not say a word. The four demon celestial venerable gave Demon Emperor Wutian a meaningful glance. Demon Emperor Wutian immediately transmitted his voice with squinted eyes, "My lord, we've made our move to help ruler Rudeo." Qin Nan waited for a moment. He then received a message from Princess Miao Miao and the others. He immediately gave up on the idea after learning that Rudeo had returned to the undying Cycle Mountain. He sat down with his legs crossed and circulated his cultivation technique. At that instant, the demonic intent in the dilapidated ancient city began to tremble vigorously. A faint imperious aura burst out of Qin Nan's body. Demon Emperor Wutian transmitted his voice, "Senior 4 Demon Celestial Venerable, are you ready? If Qin Nan manages to merge with his Dharmakaya, my lord will surely return to the world. If we..." Even though more than 10,000 years had passed, he was still terrified when he recalled Huang Fuju's presence. The four demon celestial venerable's eyes flickered. He replied, "Don't you worry, we will succeed. No matter how strong Huang Fuju is, Qin Nan's body is only that of a peak ruler realm. With our methods, how can he stop us?" Demon Emperor Wutian calmed his thoughts. That was right. They had the four demon celestial venerable on their side. Besides, the four demon celestial venerable had a fortunate encounter after achieving the Heaven Highness realm. His aura was a lot stronger than some Heaven Highnesses. Besides, they had so many rulers of Dao on their side. How could Huang Fuju possibly stop them with Qin Nan's ruler realm body? Once we succeed, I'll be able to acquire the art of the immortal demon, and I won't have to be a servant anymore. Now that the world is in chaos, I can fish in troubled waters and live a carefree life. Demon Emperor Wutian's eyes burned passionately. Emo Xie, who was standing at the side, was not excited at all. He had hoped for his lord to return to the world countless times, but now, he was not looking forward to it at all. However, what could he do? What else could he do apart from feeling heartbroken? Time gradually passed. The demonic aura from Qin Nan's body grew stronger. Demon Emperor Wutian and the other rulers of Tao were startled. They kept backing away, forcing the four demons Celestial Venerable to unleash his aura to stop Qin Nan. After sitting on the witch altar, Qin Nan cultivated the art of the immortal demon at a terrifying speed. Just as the four demons Celestial Venerable had said, the witch altar was very beneficial to him, allowing him to improve at a rapid pace. Various thoughts. They were born in his mind. All of a sudden, Qin Nan sensed something. He opened his heart eye and looked into the sky. He saw a faintly discernible thread descending from the boundless void and wrapping around his body tightly. It also exuded traces of demonic intent. Qin Nan's consciousness immediately flew through the thread. It crossed several regions and countless mountains and seas in the blink of an eye. Chapter 2568. It was the mysterious place that nurtured the 10 Heaven Highness trees, the place where Qin Nan achieved the Heaven Highness realm in the ancient times. Qin Nan could not help but think of Gu Fei. Gu Fei was closely related to the mysterious guardian of the place. Qin Nan let out a sigh in his heart. The 4 Supreme Highnesses had destroyed the Heaven Highness battlefield. The remaining Heaven Highness trees were not spared either. He wondered if the mysterious place was affected by it. How serious would it be if it was? Did Gu Fei return to the place after he achieved the Heaven Highness realm to take over the Guardian's position? Master, did you sense the clone? Heaven Highness 4 Demon asked when he noticed Qin Nan's unusual aura. Qin Nan opened his eyes and nodded. Come with me. Qin Nan led the demon cultivators and left the place. They stepped into the rift. Around an hour later, the southernmost land of the first immortal realm, the omniscient land. Unlike the ancient times, the omniscient land was no longer what it used to be. It was now a land of no life. The battle between the 4 Supreme Highnesses had affected the place too, causing the rules of the heavens and earth to change. The fortunate encounters were replaced by all kinds of dangers. Cultivators below the ruler realm had a high chance of dying in the place. Master. At this time, an old man with a face full of scars and a few ancient poisonous insects on his shoulder said sinisterly, I call you my lord because I still recognize you and give you face. However, if you play any tricks, then don't blame me for treating you as a pawn. Zhoudi's reincarnation. Heaven Highness 4 Demon, Demon Emperor Wutian, and the others smiled. They did not rebuke the old man, as if they did not hear him. Qin Nan did not speak. He did not even look at the old man. He continued to move forward as he followed his instincts. When the crowd arrived at the depths, they suddenly felt an imposing power suddenly descend between the heavens and the earth, causing the sky in all directions to abruptly turn dusky. A blood-red, incomplete door was faintly discernible within it, emitting a faintly discernible, terrifying aura. This is my master's aura. Demon Emperor Wutian was slightly excited. I never thought that my master would actually place his true body here. No wonder I couldn't find him. Emosia looked at the door and couldn't help but sigh. It is indeed safe to put it here. As long as we spend some effort to change this place, we will be able to control it. No one can enter. Qin Nan's heart skipped a beat as he asked, You know this place? How come I don't know about this place? Demon Monarch Wutian asked with suspicion in his eyes, How come you're the same as me? Emosia glanced at Demon Lord Wutian with disdain. He then said to Qin Nan, Master, this is the mysterious place where the 10 celestial trees were born. The celestial tree entered this place. Only then did I refine the celestial tree and become a supreme celestial. However, when the 4 Supreme Celestial Highnesses went on a rampage, Song tried to take the place away, but Zhou Di stopped him. A great battle broke out and destroyed the place in the end. Otherwise, even if the Heaven Highness battlefield was on the verge of collapse, this place could still produce Celestial Highness trees. Otherwise, the cultivators who came later would still have a chance to achieve the Heaven Highness realm. Was it really destroyed? Qin Nan shook his head. He didn't say anything further. He led the way through the blood-red door. 5 breaths later, Qin Nan landed in the mysterious place. The rulers of Demon Dao and the 4 demon heavenly highnesses blurted out in astonishment behind him. Qin Nan lifted his gaze and saw that the mysterious place was completely different from when he first came. The sky had turned as black as ink. Occasionally, lightning would roll in it. The earth no longer existed, turning into a dark red sea of fire. In the depths of the sea, there were sword lights, saber lights, spear lights, and some huge corpses that were constantly colliding. It seemed like there was still a great battle going on. The rare phenomena caused a destructive aura to fill every corner of the place. Even 4 demon heavenly highness felt a chill running down his spine. He could sense that if he ventured deeper into the sea of flames or the sky, he would be in great danger. Even he would suffer serious injuries even if he managed to survive. The sea of flames began to boil vigorously all of a sudden. The terrifying aura between the heavens and earth grew stronger too. Demon Emperor Wutian and the others were startled. Whoosh! A sea of flames surged into the sky and soared into the clouds. Following that, in the black sky, several hundred bolts of lightning struck the sea of flames in unison, emitting deafening noises. The sea of flames no longer existed. In its place was a glazed stone platform. On the stone platform, a figure quietly stood there. The moment this body appeared, the sky seemed to be sealed, and the sea of fire seemed to be suppressed. There was no movement at all. It was as if everything in the world had lost its brilliance before the figure. It wore a broken set of armor that was covered in dark red bloodstains. Even though it had lost all signs of life, it still exuded a majesty that belonged to it. Even the eternal power of time and space could not corrode it. It had existed for eternity. Master, 4 demon heavenly highness, Demon Emperor Wutian, Mo Xie, and the rest of the demon cultivators trembled as if they had just been struck by lightning. They subconsciously had an urge to drop to their knees and worship the figure. Meanwhile, the art of the immortal demon in Qin Nan's body reached its limit. A great feeling rose in his heart too. It was his body. He had to reclaim his body. If it were the old Qin Nan, he would not be able to control the feeling, but his current strength was no longer the same as before, thus he was able to do as he pleased without being affected by it. No wonder Huang Fuju is trying so hard to keep his body. Qin Nan's eyes flickered. He had fought Huang Fuju in the ancient times. Huang Fuju was only a peak ruler, yet his flesh was nothing special. Even after he achieved the Heaven Highness realm, his flesh did not change much. Chapter 2569. Qin Nan performed a hand seal as his meridians vibrated. Demonic intents surged and transformed into the upper demon realm, twisting and spinning rapidly. At that instant, the clone that had been dormant for many years began to awaken. The sound of a raging river could be heard coming from his body. The demon blood that had settled down began to boil again. Qin Nan's heart exploded with emotions, as if he was overjoyed to finally be reborn after being sealed away for 10,000 years. He also felt like he had finally found his true self. An invisible force continued to grow in Qin Nan's heart, allowing him to recognize his past and present life. He was neither Qin Nan nor Zhou Di. He was Huang Fuju, the one and only immortal demon highness. However, in less than a breath's time, Qin Nan erased all his emotions. He looked down at Huang Fuju's clone coldly and said, "Refine." What he said was not something like, "my Dharma body" or "return to my body." Instead, it was a simple sentence. It was as if a peerless expert had encountered a treasure of heaven and earth and had taken it for himself. The difference between the two was like the difference between the heavens and earth. Whoosh! An illusionary demonic flame burst out from under the clone and burned vigorously. The four limbs of the avatar gradually turned transparent. Various kinds of divine light shone continuously. Following it, Qin Nan felt a magnificent force surging into his body and merging with his limbs and bones. The four demon Heavenly Highness, Demon Emperor Wutian, and the others collected their thoughts. Remember, only attack when I say so. The four demon Heavenly Highness lowered his voice, as if he was worried that someone might hear him. It was even trembling slightly. Got it! Demon Emperor Wutian and the others responded. Their eyes were filled with complicated emotions when they looked at Qin Nan. They were filled with excitement, anxiety, fear, and excitement. Emosie stood straight like a statue. His eyes were hollow. He was not willing to see the outcome. He was loyal to Huang Fuju, not the other demons. However, he had lost. There was nothing he could do. He could only watch helplessly. Time passed by slowly. The entire body was completely different. Apart from the dark golden bones, everything else had turned into a sparkling divine light. Moreover, it was gradually dimming. Qin Nan's aura grew stronger and stronger. His half-step, eternal, indestructible body was already operating on its own. Behind him, holy light flickered. Above his head was a sea of demonic will. The distorted upper demonic world had expanded dozens of times. Countless demonic gods were roaring in the upper demonic world, causing most of the demonic overlords present to tremble in fear. If it wasn't for the fact that breaking through required a grand spectacle, then they would have no doubt that Qin Nan would definitely be able to break through the shackles and ascend to become an Empyrean powerhouse. After an unknown period of time, all the crystalline light finally entered Qin Nan's body. The dark golden skeleton that had been as stable as Mount Tai suddenly flickered and stuck to Qin Nan's body. Emosie's skinny hands clenched tightly under his sleeves. The expressions of the four demon Heavenly Venerate, Demon Emperor Wutian, and the rulers of the demon Dao froze. Bang! A tremendous aura burst out of Qin Nan's body all of a sudden. It suppressed the sea of flames below and soared into the sky. The upper devil realm above his head suddenly shattered, reformed, and shattered. This repeated for tens of thousands of times. Finally, it completely solidified from its illusory state. Through the rotating and twisting hole, one could vaguely see clear air rising from inside. It turned into the sky, while the turbid aura sank to the ground. The world took shape. A magnificent figure that looked exactly like Qin Nan sat at the center of the world, as if it had existed for eternity. The sacred light that the half-step eternal indestructible body was emitting was immediately suppressed. The art of the immortal demon had reached the perfect mastery. The upper devil world had evolved into the immortal world, where the will of the soul resided. If the immortal world existed for eternity, then Qin Nan would exist for eternity too. However, Qin Nan's attention was not on it at all. At the instant the dark gold bones fused into his body, he instantly sensed that within the depths of every single bone was a talisman marking that contained boundless truth, and there was a total of 9,999 talisman markings. They remained still and were communicating with one another like a formation. Qin Nan immediately realized that the bones were the precious artifact that Huang Fuju had obtained from the Blue Dome. He had merged the bones with his flesh, granting his flesh the power of a stormy cloud. Right at that moment, all of the runes and symbols suddenly started to shine. The skeleton began to emit a dark golden glow too, which resonated with the glow of the runes and merged into one. The skeleton as the runes, perfect 10,000 times? Qin Nan saw through the secrets behind it. Bang bang bang! A series of thunderous explosions took place in Qin Nan's divine sense. A magnificent force descended and dragged Qin Nan's soul into the darkness of the void. Qin Nan lifted his gaze and saw an indescribable figure approaching him from the end of the darkness. Every step he took was accompanied by the cries of countless demons. The figure opened his eyes and emitted a godly glow. He fixed his gaze on Qin Nan and said, "Are you my reincarnation?" The man was none other than Huang Fuju. Qin Nan showed no sign of fear. He said with a calm smile, "Isn't that a bit inappropriate? To be more precise, I should be the sacrifice for your resurrection, right?" Huang Fuju burst out laughing. His voice was thunderous. "It seems like you've already figured it out. However, even if you do, so what? From now on, let this demon lord live your life in your place." He immediately made his move. His giant hand shrouded the sky as he grabbed at Qin Nan's soul. At that instant, Qin Nan's soul emitted a blinding sacred glow. The half-imperishable flesh of eternity that was being suppressed by the immortal demonic world was unleashed. Even though the demonic intent was extremely powerful, it would not yield. "Zhou, you can't stop me with your tricks," Huang Fuju said imperiously. He did not take Qin Nan seriously. Chapter 2570. Meanwhile, inside Qin Nan's body, under that terrifying giant hand, the dazzling holy light was unable to resist at all and was continuously shattered. Qin Nan's expression remained the same. He shook his head and said, "Huang Fuju, haven't you noticed that the situation is different now?" Huang Fuju glanced down at the mortal like a peerless deity. "The situation is different? I've already predicted that when you merged with my avatar, I would definitely be prepared. If that's the case, why wouldn't I be prepared? Stop struggling, you won't stand a chance." Qin Nan did not say a word. He reached out his hand and grabbed. The remaining sacred light immediately covered him like a robe, making him look sacred. "If you were reincarnated and still possessed the cultivation of a supreme highness, I wouldn't stand a chance against you. However, you're only a wisp of your will, yet you're trying to devour me?" Qin Nan's soul unleashed a tremendous aura. His figure began to expand rapidly. In just the blink of an eye, it had reached Huang Fuju's magnificent level, or even surpassed it. The sacred light it emitted lit up the darkness in the surroundings. Qin Nan made his move. He threw a punch forward with a destructive force. It instantly shattered the enormous hand into pieces. Huang Fuju had guessed wrongly. Qin Nan did not come prepared when he merged with his clone. Why was that? Qin Nan was once a supreme highness. He was only half a step away from achieving the strongest supreme Tao. Even though Qin Nan was only a ruler realm, his comprehension, knowledge, and control of his power had not changed. It allowed his soul and will to grow stronger. Even though Huang Fuju had set up a law-defying move, his power had weakened significantly after so many years. Besides, it was not Huang Fuju's soul that was trying to devour Qin Nan's clone. It was only Huang Fuju's will. Why would Qin Nan be afraid of Huang Fuju under such circumstances? Huang Fuju was astounded when he realized something. "You've achieved the Supreme Highness realm before? What's going on? Your cultivation is clearly only at the peak sovereign realm." Even the dignified Huang Fuju had no idea what was going on. Qin Nan looked straight at him and smiled faintly. "If I hadn't returned to the Antiquity Age 1.5 years ago, I don't know what would have happened to me today. Speaking of which, you and I have met before, and I seem to have become the demon ancestor that you speak of?" Huang Fuju's mind exploded, and his face was full of shock. "You have returned to the Antiquity Age? You are the fiend ancestor who gave me pointers in the valley back then?" Huang Fuju didn't wait for Qin Nan to reply before he'd gradually recovered from his shock, and he couldn't help but raise his head to look at the sky before laughing with disappointment. "Ha ha ha! This is the cycle of karma, the cycle of karma." Sister thought that the demon ancestor that I had painstakingly searched for and had always regarded as my teacher was actually me. His reincarnation. Qin Nan sighed in his heart and said, Huang Fuju, now that things have come to this, you no longer have a chance. For the sake of this wonderful fate, I have a few things that I would like you to answer for me. Why did the four Supreme Highnesses fight in the past? Because why did you know that Zhou Di would reincarnate as me, so you set up a trap for me? Also, what is the secret of the 10 great immortals? Huang Fuju stopped laughing and stared at him. I can't answer you. I'm just a manifestation of a will that only wants to be reborn. Although I have a little memory, the questions you asked are not within the range of my current memory. Except I can only answer your questions if I'm truly reborn and recover all my memories. However, I don't think that chance will come. Huang Fuju grabbed with his hand, and the blood saber condensed in his palm. He said sternly, Even so, I want to fight you. While Qin Nan was disappointed, he was also affected by his emotions. His face turned solemn. Then I'll accompany you to the end. Qin Nan strode forward, as if he represented the entire heavens, and began to judge the peerless demon ancestor who had shocked the ancient times. Huang Fuju swung his saber and roared at the sky. His voice kept echoing in the darkness. Those were 3 words, I'm not convinced. Meanwhile, outside Qin Nan's body, Demon Emperor Wutian, ruler Canlang, and the rest of the rulers of Dao took out their demonic weapons. There were bells, gyukins, jade flutes, etc. Each of the demonic weapons unleashed a tremendous aura. Demon Emperor Wutian and the others scattered around Qin Nan too. They performed hand seals and chanted curses. Pillars of flames immediately burst out of their bodies. Their demonic weapons were activated too, emitting demonic glows. 4 demons formation. Heaven Highness 4 demons let out a roar. He landed above Qin Nan and took out 10 demonic weapons at once. The 10 demonic weapons controlled the rest of the demonic weapons to form a whole. In addition to it, he also performed a hand seal and chanted a spell to unleash the power of a Heaven Highness in the spiritual ground realm. The formation was completed within an instant. Illusionary, enormous demonic dragons appeared on their own and let out a series of roars. Emo Xie was clenching his fists so tightly that blue veins were popping out. His knuckles were cracking. However, he could not make a move. Heaven Highness 4 demons and the others had already done something to him. Heaven Highness 4 demons had only brought him here to give him a huge blow so he would admit the truth and spill the ancient secrets about Huang Fuju and the other Supreme Highnesses. Senior 4 demons, here's our chance. Demon Emperor Wutian, ruler Canlang, and the rest of the demonic cultivators felt their hearts pounding wildly when they saw Qin Nan's aura becoming more chaotic. Heaven Highness 4 demons looked down at Qin Nan with bloodshot eyes. His hands were trembling vigorously. He had gone through a lot to reach where he was today from a mere rogue cultivator of the demonic path. However, none of the fortunate encounters were comparable to what he was experiencing now. Currently, Qin Nan and Huang Fuju's will were fighting one another with everything they had. No matter who won, one of them would be severely injured. Even after devouring Huang Fuju's flesh, they would not be able to break through in a short time. Under the circumstances, Qin Nan's flesh was only at the peak ruler realm. No matter how outstanding it was, how could it possibly withstand the huge net that Heaven Highness 4 demons had carefully weaved? As a matter of fact, Heaven Highness 4 demons could easily make a move when Qin Nan saw Huang Fuju's flesh. However, why did Heaven Highness 4 demons not do so? If Heaven Highness 4 demons and the others attacked Qin Nan and completely devoured Qin Nan, it was hard to say if they would still be able to obtain Huang Fuju's flesh. If they attacked Huang Fuju's flesh, they would have to face Huang Fuju's backup plan, allowing Qin Nan to escape. He was even more ambitious. He wanted everything that belonged to Zhou Di and everything that belonged to Huang Fuju. With everything, he could even trample Tsang and Yi Zhaoxian under his feet. Since that was the case, he had chosen the perfect opportunity to inflict great damage on both sides. 4 demons, on my command, suppress the flesh and destroy the soul. Heaven Highness 4 demons roared into the sky and made his move. His fate would be rewritten today. Chapter 2571. Are you congratulating me for merging with my clone? Qin Nan said calmly. He slowly rose to his feet. Strong gusts of wind swept the surroundings. His chaotic aura immediately returned to normal. It's over? 4 Demon Heavenly Highness, Demon Emperor Wutian, and the others were astounded. They could not believe it. The duel between Qin Nan and Huang Fuju had ended so quickly? It had only been less than 10 breaths since Qin Nan merged with the dark golden skeleton. They assumed both Qin Nan and Huang Fuju would need at least 100 breaths to take one another down, even if they were prepared. That way, they would be able to take advantage of the situation and reap the benefits. Are you my master or? Mo Xie was trembling. He stared at Qin Nan. From today onward, there will be no more Huang Fuju. Qin Nan said calmly. A tremendous aura burst out of his body. The sacred and demonic glows on his back flickered. He took a step forward and threw a punch forward. An unimaginably terrifying force was unleashed, causing the entire four-slaughter demonic formation to tremble vigorously. The 5 demonic weapons floating in the air, as the cores of the formation, were the first to collapse. They exploded into pieces. Qin Nan had half of the indestructible flesh of eternity. He had also refined Huang Fuju's clone. Even though he had yet to fully master Huang Fuju's skeleton and the 9,999 mysterious runes, his flesh was already unbelievably strong. His physique had reached an unimaginable level. No more Huang Fuju? Mo Xie's face turned pale. Even his mind went blank. He already had a bad feeling about it, yet deep inside his heart, he was still hoping that his master would show up and save the situation. Now, his dream had been shattered. He was only left with the cold reality. My lord, didn't you say that you were setting up a great plan? Didn't you say you would surely return? You have never lied to anyone before. Why are you lying to me now? Losing his life was not scary. The 3rd immortal had lost the faith in his heart. At the same time, the 4 demon heavenly lords suddenly reacted. His expression was ferocious. Good. Qin Nan, we really underestimated you. I never expected you to be able to defeat Huang Fuju's will in such a short period of time. But, so what? No matter how strong you are still a mere peak ruler. Don't just stand there, we're going to take everything away from him. Demon Emperor Wutian, Ruler Canlang, and the rest of the experts immediately collected their thoughts. Their eyes were filled with murderous intent. That was right. The situation was not out of their control yet. In the end, Qin Nan was nothing more than a puny sovereign. Boom. With the 4 demon Heavenly Highness taking the lead, the 4 demons' demon formation was activated and unleashed a peerless might. The scenery around Qin Nan immediately changed, turning into an ancient demonic domain. Countless illusionary figures of demon gods sprang out from the blood-red sky. Each of them had a shocking aura as they tried to kill Qin Nan. Heaven-shattering saber. Qin Nan waved his arm and grabbed the familiar saber. The saber shuddered and let out a long buzz. It was extremely joyful. It's only an illusion. I'll break it with a single slash. Qin Nan rose into the sky and swung his arm. The brilliant white saber glow lit up the sky. The demon gods were stunned as if their eyes were blinded by the saber glow. They simply stood there and watched the saber glow slashing at them. The scene shattered instantly. Qin Nan did not care about what was going on. The heaven-shattering saber sprang forward and penetrated the traps of the formation, slashing deep into the formation. Bang! The saber slashed open a huge gap in a corner of the four demons' demon formation. Qin Nan kicked the ground and broke free from the formation. He was no longer restricted by the formation. Crap! Heaven Highness Four Demons was startled. He quickly reacted. He had obtained the Four Demons' demon formation from the Blue Dome. It possessed an unbelievable power. Normally, once a formation was established, it would be difficult to move again. However, under Heaven Highness Four Demons' control, the Four Demons' demon formation was able to change its position at will like an artifact. However, before he could unleash the power of the formation, his eyes widened. Qin Nan was too quick. Even Heaven Highness Four Demons almost failed to see him clearly. When he finally saw Qin Nan clearly, Qin Nan had already arrived in front of the ruler of Demon Dao, who was spouting nonsense. He threw a punch at the ruler of Demon Dao with a sacred glow. You! The demonic Dao Lord's eyes widened in fear. Before he could react, a destructive force had obliterated his demonic artifact, the formation core, and his body. Not a single thing was left. Not a single trace of him was left. I might not be Huang Fuju, but Huang Fuju is destined to be with me. I shall kill you traitors with my own hands, Qin Nan said coldly. He went up to the ruler of Wolf and crushed him into pieces with a single punch. Four Demons Dragon Sea. Heaven Highness Four Demons roared furiously. Countless demonic dragons sprang into the sky and surged at Qin Nan. Qin Nan did not care about them. He allowed them to crash into him. How could they possibly damage his flesh? In the nick of time, Qin Nan took a step forward and killed a ruler with a punch. His figure flickered, and he drew his saber once more to slay another ruler. He looked at Demon Emperor Wutian with a sharp gaze. A great sense of terror rose in Demon Emperor Wutian's heart. He blurted out with a startled expression, "My master!" "No, Qin Nan, Qin Nan slashed the successor of the Immortals mercilessly and killed him right away. The remaining rulers of Demon Dao and Heaven Highness Four Demons felt chills running down their spines. Their hearts were filled with a great chill. How do you have such power?" Heaven Highness Four Demons' voice trembled. Chapter 2572. Qin Nan, no, my master. Heavenly Highness Four Demon forced himself to calm down. He forced a smile. It's our fault for what happened. We hope that you, my lord, will forgive us and give us another chance. We are willing to swear an oath. We will never betray you. Heavenly Highness Four Demon was able to come so far not only because of his courage, but also because of his cunning heart. Even though he still had some tricks up his sleeves, Qin Nan was unfathomable. He even sensed the presence of death. As such, he decisively chose to lower his head. Besides, the entire Nine Heavens immortal realm assumed Qin Nan was no match for Tsang and Yi Zhaoxian. It was only a matter of time before Tsang and Yi Zhaoxian destroyed him. However, Heavenly Highness Four Demon realized that the people of the Nine Heavens immortal realm had underestimated Qin Nan after the battle today. Qin Nan had gone into seclusion for a year and a half after the battle at the Battle of God's Breath. He did not show up despite all kinds of provocations. It was obvious that he was purposely holding back, just so he could turn the tables around in the upcoming battle. It was not a bad thing to submit to Qin Nan. Not to mention that Qin Nan had also obtained the thing left by Huang Fuju. Once he fully mastered it, his strength would be even more terrifying. The rest of the rulers of Demon Dao immediately collected their thoughts. They nodded with pale faces. They were not idiot. They clearly understood the situation. Never betray? Why did you betray Huang Fuju then? Even though you are not from the same era as Huang Fuju, I believe you have sworn an oath to be loyal to him forever, right? Qin Nan did not conceal his disdain. Do you think I don't know? I know there are many ways to break an oath after achieving the Heaven Highness realm. If it wasn't the case, Song and Yi Zhaoxian would have teamed up and forcibly subdued the Heaven Highnesses of the Nine Heavens Immortal Realm. That being said, Qin Nan could choose to only target Heavenly Highness 4 Demon and subdue the rest of the rulers of Demon Dao. However, Qin Nan was not interested in these traitors. Qin Nan made his move again. He slashed at another ruler of Demon Dao with a mystical saber glow. No. The ruler let out a roar and unleashed the power of his demon weapon. However, the saber's slash was too terrifying. He could not even endure it for a second before he was slashed into pieces along with his demon weapon. You! The 4 demon Heavenly Highnesses' face darkened. They did not expect Qin Nan to be unmoved even though they were willing to submit to him. Run! In the blink of an eye, Heavenly Lord 4 Devil made a decision. Changing his hand seal, he broke the 4 devils' demonic formation and fled into the distance. The rest of the rulers of the Demon Dao scattered too. You all! Qin Nan performed a hand seal with a single hand and slapped forward. The place within a few 10,000 li froze instantly. It turned from an illusionary place into something tangible. Even though Qin Nan had yet to refine his primary flesh, he had already begun to practice the art of assimilation. He could seal off the place with a wave of his hand, leaving them with nowhere to run. Break! Heavenly Highness 4 Demon yelled. He took out his demon weapon and executed a peerless attack. It left a path of chaos over 30,000 li long across the place. However, before he could escape, Qin Nan had already executed a peerless art. It emitted a brilliant sacred glow. Dian world, suppress. An incomparably majestic illusory mountain condensed in the void and shook with a rumble. The sea of flames below and the sky above trembled in unison as they were forcefully pushed back several dozen feet. The Dian World Mountain was the most precious artifact owned by the Dian Heavenly Sect. Even though Qin Nan had only managed to refine a wisp of the mountain's will, it was still extremely terrifying in the Nine Heavens Immortal Realm. The expressions of the 4 demon heavenly exalted and the others changed drastically. They felt a boundless pressure pressing down on them, making their every move extremely strenuous. In addition to it, they also sensed that the sky around them was being suppressed. If they wanted to escape, they would have to destroy the mountain. Qin Nan, you've gone too far. Heavenly Highness 4 Demon yelled with a twisted expression. Brothers, let's work together. I don't believe a ruler of Dao can kill us all. The rest of the rulers of the Demon Dao lost their minds in despair and yelled, Kill! They might still have a chance to survive if they were to risk their lives. Qin Nan remained unmoved. He raised his saber and continued to fight. Bang bang bang! The mountain shook vigorously as strong gusts of wind surged. Mo Xie did not move from the start to the end of this monstrous battle. If it was not for a trace of powerful qi protecting his body, he would have been drowned by the aftershocks and shattered into pieces. The eyes of the 3rd immortal were filled with dead ashes. No one could see any emotion in his eyes. They could only see the scene being reflected in them. Qin Nan was like a deity that had descended upon the world. He destroyed the attacks of Heavenly Highness 4 Demon and the others. However, the more he fought, the braver he became. Every few breaths, Qin Nan would kill a ruler of Dao amidst the overwhelming murderous intent. Blood splattered across the sky. The number of experts of the Demon Dao gradually decreased. Even Heavenly Highness 4 Demon, who was the strongest among them, was covered in bloody wounds. He had barely escaped death a few times. Qin Nan, I never thought I would die in your hands one day. Heavenly Highness 4 Demon seemed to have lost his mind, but you forced us to do it. If you want to kill me, I'll make you pay the price too. He immediately took out a jade disc and activated it. 2 shocking intents burst out of it, which turned out to be the intents of 2 Heaven Highness realm experts. He had prepared the disc to make sure nothing went wrong, but it was only used to erase the intents of Qin Nan and Huang Fuju. He was going to burn everything he had and use the intents of the 2 Heaven Highnesses to deliver the final blow. Qin Nan's expression remained the same as he flicked his finger, causing an invisible force to be emitted. "But you forced me to do it. If you want to kill me, I'll let you," Heavenly Highness 4 Demon yelled as he took out a jade disc. However, as a Heaven Highness, his senses were extremely sharp. His eyes widened as he sensed something was not right. Whoosh! However, before he could understand what was going on, a saber glow descended from the sky and shattered the jade disc that he had yet to activate into pieces. The art of spacetime. A breath's worth of retreat. Qin Nan had only just practiced the sacred scripture of time and space. That was all he could do. However, it was enough for him. "You want me to pay the price? You don't have the right yet." Qin Nan stepped forward. His long hair drifted in the wind in an imperious manner. The trip to the ancient era had completely transformed him. Bang bang bang. Chapter 2573. The terrifying ripples gradually calmed down. A strong scent of blood lingered in the air. The glazed stone platform that carried Huang Fuju's Dharma body was obviously not an ordinary item. It emitted rings of hazy halos, causing the surrounding aura to be inexplicably calm. The sea of flames below and the sky above recovered significantly without Huang Fuju's flesh suppressing it. The sea of flames rolled wildly with flickering lightning. Qin Nan withdrew the heaven-shattering saber and looked at Mo Xie. "You've set me up and tried to harm my senior brother. Normally, I should kill you today. However, you didn't succeed, and you didn't side with the 4-demon Heaven Highness this time either. As for Huang Fuju, therefore I'll spare your life. However, I'll have to erase your cultivation. You will be an ordinary person and live the rest of your life peacefully." Mo Xie didn't show any emotion. He just nodded his head stiffly. Qin Nan did not show any mercy. He flicked his finger and fired a wisp of saber intent into Mo Xie's body. It erased most of his cultivation, leaving him with the cultivation of Emperor Wu. That being said, the saber intent did not dissipate. It could still save Mo Xie's life if he was in danger in the future. "Where did the demon ruler that left before go?" Qin Nan asked. He had to eliminate the source of the trouble. Qin Nan had no intention of letting the guy go. Mo Xie's face was expressionless like a puppet. He would only answer Qin Nan's questions. After learning the location, Qin Nan immediately transmitted his voice to Princess Miao Miao and the others. He told them that he was safe and asked them to eliminate the demon ruler. "You may leave." Qin Nan waved his hand and sent Mo Xie out of the mysterious place. Following this, Qin Nan landed on the glazed platform. When Mo Xie was here earlier, he didn't feel anything, but now that there was no one here, he couldn't help but feel a sense of joy. Even though he had killed many celestial venerables in the primordial age and even foiled the schemes of the celestial emperors, the feeling he had now was completely different. He truly felt how powerful he was. "Fortunately, I took a gamble and went to the ancient era," Qin Nan muttered to himself. If it wasn't for that experience, even if his cultivation had improved in a short 1.5 years, he wouldn't have reached the stage of being reborn. If he wanted to solve the matter of Huang Fuju's Dharmakaya and the Diabolism powerhouse this time, he would definitely have to plan every step of the way. He had many backup plans. Even if that was the case, no one knew what the final result would be. It wouldn't be like the current situation, where one person could defeat 10 people who were skilled in martial arts. Once he grew stronger, he would be able to break any schemes with a single punch. Who? Qin Nan exhaled and his eyes lit up. I can only count as half of Huang Fuju's Dharma body. Let's refine it completely here. He sat down with his legs crossed and inspected his body. His powerful soul force encapsulated the dark golden bones. Time gradually passed. A month was gone in the blink of an eye. Qin Nan, who was like a statue, suddenly opened his eyes. A brilliant light burst out of his body and tore a giant hole in the dark sky. The dark golden bones had completely merged with his body. His body was already half of the indestructible flesh of eternity. Nothing in the world could do anything to it. It had the trait of being indestructible. After merging with the bones, his body had grown stronger again. His defense was comparable to the real indestructible flesh of eternity. In addition to that, Qin Nan had also mastered the 9,999 mysterious talismans that Huang Fuju had obtained. They had merged with Qin Nan's limbs and bones. Qin Nan had followed Huang Fuju's plan and used himself as the 10,000th talisman. If he activated all of them, he would be able to unleash a terrifying force. However, he had to admit that the 9,999 mysterious talismans were extraordinary. Qin Nan had only comprehended a part of them after comprehending them for a month. Qin Nan could sense that the talismans still possessed a stronger ability, but he had yet to discover it. Huang Fuju's Dharma body has brought me two great changes. The balance in my body is about to be broken. I have no choice but to refine the flesh of origin now. Qin Nan's eyes flickered as he went into seclusion. Half a month later, Qin Nan's body turned into a transparent crystal. The aura of the flesh of origin swept across the area within 3,000 li, one body to resist all arts. Qin Nan groaned as his figure began to tremble vigorously, resulting in a mystical sight. If Qin Nan was refining a martial tree, the trunk of the martial tree would be the flesh of origin, the flesh of origin. The perfected true art of the immortal demon, the half-imperishable flesh of eternity, the heaven-fighting art, the sacred scripture of space and time, etc. were like the main branches. The hidden dangers in Qin Nan's body had been eliminated. He could now use his power at will. Bang! At that instant, a series of dull explosions took place in the sky. Qin Nan immediately felt everything in his body becoming restless, as if it was trying to break open the door. Can I break through to the Heaven Highness realm right away? Qin Nan raised his brows. He immediately unleashed the flesh of origin to suppress his aura. That was right. Qin Nan could break through to the Heaven Highness realm right away without having to enter the battlefield of divine aura. Why was that? Firstly, after merging with the Dharma body, the power in Qin Nan's body had completely surpassed the ruler realm, or even the Heaven Highness knowledgeable Earth Highness. Secondly, Qin Nan had achieved the Supreme Highness realm in the ancient era. He could easily achieve the Heaven Highness realm on his own if he set up a grand occasion. There's no need for me to achieve the Heaven Highness realm on my own. I have to go to the battlefield of divine aura anyway. Qin Nan's eyes flickered. He rose to his feet and stretched. It was time for him to return after his seclusion. Chapter 2574. With a thought, Qin Nan immediately stepped into the Sea of Flames. The Sea of Fire was formed naturally by a battle between a group of heaven venerables. It was extremely powerful and endlessly growing. The power deep inside was enough to burn a ruler. However, Qin Nan only emitted a faint glow when he arrived. The flames in the surroundings scattered on their own. They did not dare to come any closer. In addition to that, the strange creatures, forbidding auras, and other things that were born in the Sea of Fire seemed to have been sealed. They all fell silent. Qin Nan released his powerful divine sense and shrouded the entire Sea of Fire to search carefully. A moment later, he also discovered something. he arrived at a corner of the Sea of Fire with a flicker. The place was around 10,000 miles wide. Countless skeletons of different sizes were piled up. Unlike ordinary skeletons, these skeletons were crystal clear. Some were even covered in mysterious runes, while others were flickering with a faint glow. Not only did the flames of the Sea of Fire not burn these skeletons to ashes, but after countless years of burning, they had all transformed and become mystical. Qin Nan's eyes scanned the skeletons. When he suddenly discovered a 300-foot-long finger bone, the familiar aura suddenly expanded 10,000 times in his heart, causing his mind to tremble violently. He recalled the pair of stubborn eyes. He recalled its fate, the last peerless treasure beast in the world. Qin Nan picked up the finger bone in a daze. The various experiences were still vivid in his mind. To him, they had only parted a few months ago, but it had already been 10,000 years. Chen Fenghua, Ji Xian, Gu Fei, heavenly venerate Zi Hao, heavenly venerate Long Ro. What kind of fate did they face in the end? While Qin Nan was immersed in his thoughts, he suddenly felt a burning sensation on his palm. He lowered his head and saw the surface of his finger bones glowing, as a faint flicker could be seen. His eyes immediately widened as he probed it with his senses. "There's a trace of life inside?" Qin Nan was startled. The trace of life was extremely tiny. If Qin Nan had not reached the Supreme Highness realm, he would not have noticed it. Qin Nan immediately made his move as a thought crossed his mind. Qin Nan spent 4 hours walking to every corner of the Sea of Flames and roaming to the ends of the Sky Dome. Now, he had 15 more corpses in his hand than before. There were hand bones, leg bones, and so on. Each of them was extremely large. Qin Nan immediately executed the great Samsara heavenly scripture and transformed into his primary flesh. He fired wisps of primary force into the bones. Not long after, these skeletons emitted rays of brilliance. The extremely weak traces of life seemed to have sensed each other's existence and actually responded to each other from afar. TSK, I really didn't expect this kid to have such a backup plan. Qin Nan couldn't help but feel happy. Qin Nan's vision had improved significantly after he achieved the Supreme Highness realm. He was able to detect the faint life force in the skeletons. It was obvious that it was not because of the Sea of Flames, nor was it because of the formation. It was because Gu Fei had noticed it in the past. He had made a move. Their life force is so weak. It's going to be extremely difficult to revive them. Luckily, I managed to find an orb of the Heaven Emperor, so I can still use its power. Qin Nan murmured. He was in a great mood as he took the glazed altar. He quickly left the place. He did not want to waste any time. Meanwhile, the 20th small immortal realm of the 9 heavens, Immortal Realm Emperor Qi's capital, was one of the biggest cities in the realm. The city lord of the capital was different from the other city lords. Not only was he in the Master Realm, he was also an open-minded person. He once ordered everyone to enter the city regardless of their cultivation, and no violence was allowed in the city. The 9 heavens Immortal Realm was in a mess. Many rogue cultivators had come to the city to seek refuge when the Second Battle of God's Breath was about to take place. As a result, the city was crowded with people. On a remote street in the city, the door of a courtyard that was shut tightly was pushed open. An old man with a face full of wrinkles and dull eyes walked out. He went to a stall and bought some things. He then returned to his courtyard and brewed a pot of tea. He was reading a book with an expressionless face. Anyone would find it hard to believe that the ordinary-looking old man was Moxie, who was ranked 3rd among the 10 immortals. Suddenly, a knocking sound could be heard. Emosia walked forward and opened the door. Outside the door was a scholar in his 20s who was dressed like a scholar. The scholar bowed at Moxie and said awkwardly, "Old man, I'm sorry, I suddenly came to the city, but I'm on the verge of a breakthrough. Can I borrow your courtyard for a while? I'll repay your kindness once I'm done with my business." It was quite common in Emperor Qi's capital. The price of a courtyard in the city was extremely high. Normally, cultivators who came here to seek refuge would not bother to buy a courtyard. However, it was not safe to leave the city since the cultivators were on the verge of a breakthrough. They could only ask for lodging. Moxie nodded. The scholar quickly went to the courtyard and sat down with his legs crossed. Although most of Moxie's magic power had been neutralized by Qin Nan, his eyesight was still there. He could see that the scholar was already at the peak of the Earth Immortal Realm. He was only half a step away from the Sky Immortal Realm. Moxie glanced at him, then withdrew his gaze and continued reading. The scholar quickly released an aura. He was a demonic cultivator. Moxie sensed it but did not take another look. He no longer cared about anything in this world. The scholar's aura continued to rise. The demonic aura gradually became stronger, causing a black wind to blow in the courtyard. Suddenly, the scholar's face turned red. He kept making strange noises, as if someone was strangling him. His eyes slowly opened. It was pitch black inside. How can one be immortal? No matter what realm one cultivates to, one's body, mind, and soul will all collapse. It is impossible for one to live forever. The demon ancestor once said that as long as the demonic flame is not extinguished, it can be born. The stronger the demonic flame, the stronger I will be. I don't agree with the latter part, but the first part makes a lot of sense. Chapter 2575. Emosia's skinny hands trembled, and the ancient beast's skin book fell to the ground with a thud. He turned his head with difficulty and looked at the scholar in front of him. Who are you? The scholar stood up. There was a dignified look between his brows, but it didn't make people feel that he was that strict. There was a trace of arrogance, just like countless years ago. What do you think? These 3 words immediately caused Emosia's lonely heart to explode. The waiting, confusion, guilt, despair, and so on that had accumulated for countless years all surged out. This sinner greets my master. Emosia knelt down with his hands on the ground and his head on the ground. If one observed carefully, they would notice that his entire body was trembling with excitement. It has indeed been hard on you to have made you wait for so long. Huang Fu-ju couldn't help but sigh. He walked forward and helped him up. He said angrily, "Didn't I tell you not to bow like this before? You are my confidant. You are not my servant." Emosia was like a withered tree that had come back to life. His dead face was already rosy and full of energy. Hearing Huang Fu-ju's words, he immediately cupped his fists and said, "This sinner will remember." Huang Fu-ju held his forehead and said, "After so many years, your personality still hasn't changed at all. Forget it, do whatever you want." "Oh, right, is my reincarnation already at the peak of the heavenly venerable realm?" Emosia shook his head. "My master, your reincarnation is called Qin Nan. He is only a peak dominator now. However, he is already half a step away from the eternal indestructible body. Moreover, his combat strength is extremely strong. He alone killed a peak heavenly venerable and 20 dominators." Huang Fu-ju's eyes lit up. "Not a heavenly venerable? TSK, my reincarnation is really amazing. I left my will in the avatar to seize his body. Before I was killed by him, I transmitted a very shocked emotion. What a pity, what a pity. I couldn't set up more methods. Otherwise, I would have been able to obtain the memories of my will and know the secret of my reincarnation." Emosia looked at Huang Fu-ju's unfamiliar face and sensed his aura. He hesitated for a moment before he could not help but say, "Sinner, there's something I don't understand." Huang Fu-ju chuckled and said, "But that Qin Nan guy has clearly merged with my flesh, erasing my will to reincarnate. How is it possible for me to be reborn?" Emosia nodded. Huang Fu-ju's lips curled up. He could not help but reveal a domineering aura that looked down on the world. He said, "When the war broke out, I sensed Jodi's backup plan before I died, so I set my eyes on him. If I can take Jodi's reincarnation for myself, then when I return, I will be the number one in the 9 heavens, completely unrivaled. I'm sure you've already guessed this. However, when I attacked Jodi back then, I sensed something fishy. Thus, I did not bet everything on Jodi. When I was a Heaven Highness, I had completely invented the art of the immortal demon, but I still felt like there was a higher level beyond it. I spent a lot of time thinking about it. I managed to enter the Blue Dome and achieve the Supreme Highness realm. I was fortunate enough to learn something. Therefore, while I was plotting against Jodi, I made a bold attempt. When someone in the future perfected the art of the immortal demon, it would be the same as igniting the flames of the demonic path. I would be able to be reborn from the flames of the demonic path and reappear in the world. If that's the case, everything will be fine if I succeed in getting Jodi's reincarnation. If it doesn't work, Jodi's reincarnation will acquire my art and my flesh. He will be able to perfect the art of the immortal demon and ignite the flames of the demonic path. Even though I failed to get Jodi's reincarnation and lost my flesh and the heavenly Tao talisman, it's like I've been reborn. I still have most of my memories. Moreover, this also proves that my original comprehension was completely correct. You can find it in me. I've improved the art of the immortal demon and opened a whole new door. Moxie was astounded. He soon felt proud of himself. This was his master. He had set up 2 shocking moves with just a wave of his hand to put himself in an undefeatable position. That being said, the 2 moves might still fail, but his master, one of the 4 Supreme Highnesses, Huang Fuju, would never fail. How hilarious! The traitors like the 4 Demon Heavenly Highness and Demon Emperor Wutian dared to set up his master and tried to steal everything from him. How ridiculous! Moxie was overjoyed when he recalled the attitude of the 4 Demon Heavenly Highness, Demon Emperor Wutian, and the others. Unfortunately, Qin Nan had already taken care of the traitors for them. They did not have the chance to avenge themselves. Master, now that you've been reborn, should we target Qin Nan? He has acquired Jodi's succession, and now he has merged with your flesh and perfected the art of the immortal demon. If we can. Moxie's eyes flickered coldly. Of course. However, it's impossible now. We can't afford to provoke him before we achieve the Supreme Highness realm, Huang Fuju asked as a thought crossed his mind. Has Tsang and Yi Zhaoxian returned to the world? Moxie immediately told Huang Fuju everything that had happened in the past few years. Huang Fuju's eyes flickered when he heard that Tsang and Yi Zhaoxian had returned to the world at the same time. Those 2 assholes had indeed colluded with each other. Huang Fuju exclaimed after hearing Moxie's explanation, I didn't expect the heavens and earth to have declined so much. I didn't expect the demons to be filled with ambitious people. Huang Fuju felt a little troubled when he thought about Jodi and the others. Master, what should we do now? Moxie asked. Tsang and Yi Zhaoxian are currently dominating the battle of godly breath. Meanwhile, that Qin Nan has been hiding for a long time. He's going to stir a great chaos soon. No one knows that I've been reborn, so it's our biggest advantage. We'll let them fight one another for now. Huang Fuju's eyes flickered. We should strengthen our faction first. Give me 3 days, I'll come up with 10 martial arts that are demonic on the inside and Buddhist on the outside. Take these 10 techniques and find that group of bald donkeys. Spread them throughout the world and spread the flames of the demonic path. Chapter 2576. Meanwhile, the Li clan in the First Immortal Realm, the rift was suddenly torn apart as a glamorous woman in a palace outfit walked out from it. Not far from her, there were 2 other figures. One was a middle-aged man with a dignified expression, and the other was a white-haired old man in a green robe, who gave off an ethereal feeling. "Greetings, Senior Tongtian." The woman bowed at the old man before looking at the middle-aged man and said with a smile, "Cultivator Nanxing, how are the preparations going?" The middle-aged man was the Heaven Highness of the Li clan, Li Pasheng. The old man with white hair was the infamous Celestial Tree. "Cultivator Huang Yun, I've already given the order in the past few days. Li Yangfan and 10 peak rulers of Dao are leading the disciples of the peerless ruler's realm and the masters of Dao to enter the Dao-seeking land to train themselves," Li Pasheng said expressionlessly. He said with a straight face, "As expected of Senior Tongtian, you actually managed to force your way into the Dao-seeking land. With that, more people on our side will have a chance to achieve the ruler realm and the Heaven Highness realm in the battlefield of God Aura." Heaven Highness Huang Yun was overjoyed. He let out a relieved sigh. "We have no choice but to resort to extreme measures. I believe we won't have a chance to force our way into the Dao-seeking land again," the Celestial Tree exclaimed before asking, "What do you think?" Heaven Highness Huang Yun said, "Anyone with a little bit of intelligence knows the 9 Heavens immortal realm is about to undergo great changes. Therefore, they are willing to follow you when they heard you are heading to the Blue Dome. They have already sworn the great oath of the heart. They have sworn the great oath of the soul." The Celestial Tree's eyes glittered as she said, "Very well. Time is running short, let's head over at once." Meanwhile, in an ancient forbidden land in the 25th small immortal realm, suddenly, a tremendous force burst out from the depths of the forbidden area, followed by a blinding white light. The pitch-black sky above was illuminated by its brilliance. However, to everyone's surprise, there was a figure in the light. That person waved his hand, and all of the light immediately retreated like a tide. All of them gathered at the center of his palm, condensing into a perfectly round pearl. The person opened his mouth and immediately swallowed the bead. The aura coming from his body immediately gave off a sense of perfection. "Sigh, although I've sealed the 9 dragon stone seal, the means I left behind back then were still insufficient. As such, I had to spend so much time to refine another Celestial Emperor's bead," the figure lamented. He was none other than Tsang, one of the 4 supreme Empyreans of the past. In the past, when a few heavenly Emperor's pearls appeared in the world, the various major forces fought fiercely. He was one step too slow, so one of the Heavenly Emperor's pearls was snatched away by Qin Nan and the other Heavenly Emperor's pearls were also snatched away by Eternal Night Heavenly Sovereign and the others. When Qin Nan had secretly infiltrated the Sherdao race and returned to the ancient era, Tsang had worked with Yi Zhaoxian to find Eternal Night Heaven Venerable and the other factions. They had only taken back the Heavenly Emperor's pearls after threats and promises. Except that Heavenly Emperor's bead that Qin Nan snatched away clearly could not be taken back. As such, Tsang had no choice but to refine it again. Tsang picked up a badge and glanced at it. His lips curled upward slightly. "I didn't realize Yi Zhaoxian was so good at managing a faction." After more than a year, his alliance with Yi Zhaoxian had expanded rapidly. They had roped in all the major forces under their command. The number of experts had reached an astonishing level. It was at least several times greater than the alliance between the Li and Wang families. That being said, if it weren't for the alliance between the Li clan and the Wang clan, which had the Celestial Tree protecting it, Yi Zhaoxian would have challenged them and subdued them by now. Right at this moment, the command token seemed to have noticed something, and it emanated a ray of light before an icy cold voice resounded from within it. "Since you've completed it, then quickly come over. There's been some unusual activity in the Azure Dome of Heaven recently." Tsang said helplessly, "I'm only a ruler of Dao, yet you're asking me to go to the Blue Dome?" The badge stopped responding. Tsang shook his head. He looked up at the dark sky and murmured, "It's been more than a year. How much have you grown? The Heaven Highness battle is around the corner. You will surely come. Don't let me down." Song vanished into thin air after finishing the sentence. In addition to the authorities in the Nine Heavens immortal realm, the rest of the factions, experts, and rogue cultivators were making their moves too. The second Heaven Highness battle is going to take place in 4 months. Song and Yi Zhaoxian are hoping that the number of Heaven Highnesses in this world will reach 99, which is why they can activate the Mountain of Origin. Therefore, the Battle of the Heaven Highnesses this time will surely have a lot of fortunate encounters. In addition to it, Qin Nan is going to take advantage of the opportunity to achieve the Heaven Highness realm. Otherwise, the situation is going to change. They will be busy competing against one another. They won't have time to care about the others. It's a great opportunity for us. We have to grab hold of the opportunity at all costs. Otherwise, when the Supreme Empyrean reappears in the world, then everyone will have no chance. You are just an ant if you can't achieve the Heaven Highness realm. Chaos is coming. We don't have to achieve great things, we just need to protect ourselves. On this day, the 9-Palace Golden Immortal sect that did not side with any faction opened the mystical realm that had been sealed for 100 years. They clearly knew that no one could stay away from the chaos that was coming. On the same day, the mystical realm of the ancient Bodhi temple emitted a tremendous Bodhi glow. The Bodhisattvas were startled. They immediately made their way to the mystical realm. They soon saw illusionary figures of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the Heaven Highness realm, Ruler realm, and Ruler realm before they passed away. They were uttering Bodhi chants. 10 new Bodhi scriptures appeared out of nowhere. Amitabha, the ancestral Buddha, has sensed the approaching chaos and has given us the scriptures. It's obvious that the ancestral Buddha already knew that the Buddhism sect is going to face a great calamity. We should give the scriptures to the people as soon as possible to continue the path of Buddhism, a golden arhat said. Chapter 2577. Meanwhile, the immortal hall of the fourth layer of the undying cycle mountain. The hall had always been deserted. Only Princess Miao Miao, Jiang Bailan, and a few others were there. However, it was now crowded with people. Apart from Zhou Xuandao, Kasyapa, Heaven Highness Ling Huang, Mingqiu Progenitor, and the others, there were also Ruler Qingyu, Shuang Dao, and the others. The Progenitor, Chang Xiao, Li Ji, Mo Xiaoli, Tang Qinshan, Zhao Li Elder Long, Su Ruochen, Feng Hua, and the others whom Qin Nan was familiar with were all there. Since they learned that Qin Nan had come out from his seclusion a month and a half ago, those who were busy trying to achieve a breakthrough or exploring the mystical ground immediately put aside their tasks and returned to the undying cycle mountain. They all gathered in the hall when they learned that Qin Nan was coming back today. While the crowd was busy chatting, Qin Nan appeared at the entrance of the hall. He was slightly startled when he saw the familiar faces in the hall. Before he let out a smile, "Everyone is here. It seems like I don't have to look for you one by one." Qin Nan noticed a lot of changes in the people he was familiar with after a year and a half. Chang Xiao, Li Ji, Mo Xiaoli, Tang Qinshan, Zhao Li and Su Ruochen had achieved the ruler realm. Among them, Chang Xiao, Li Ji, and Tang Qinshan had achieved the peak ruler realm. The other three were in the greater success stage of the ruler realm. Elder Long, Feng Hua, and the others had achieved the peak master realm too. They were only a step away from achieving the ruler realm. Qin Nan was overjoyed. Even though their alliance had been suppressed by the entire Nine Heavens immortal realm over the past 1.5 years, none of them were defeated. They continued to grow and grow stronger through the blood and fire. Qin Nan, how did it go after you merged with Huang Fuju's flesh? Zhou Xuandao stared at Qin Nan and said, "Don't hide anything from us." Everyone knew that Qin Nan had gone to the demonic Dao alone to save Rodeo ruler Shui Mengyao and fused with Huang Fuju's avatar. Although Qin Nan had already reported that he was safe, there was still a trace of doubt in their hearts. They were afraid that Qin Nan had encountered some problems and chose to bear it himself, unwilling to tell them. Everyone, you really don't have to worry. I'm fine this time. Qin Nan said helplessly. It was simple. The 4-demon Heavenly Lord and the others betrayed me. They wanted to seize my body while I was fusing with my Dharmakaya, but I killed them all. Huang Fu-ju also wanted to possess me, but he was also killed by me. After saying that, Qin Nan released the immortal devil world. That terrifying devil will immediately rushed into the hall. Although Qin Nan played it down, when it landed in everyone's ears, it was like a peerless thunderclap. Qin Nan was only a peak ruler, yet he had managed to kill Heavenly Monarch 4 Devil and the others all by himself? He even destroyed Huang Fu-ju's will? Ha ha ha, well done. Heaven Highness Ling Huang and the others burst out laughing after collecting their thoughts. They could not help but feel excited. Qin Nan had achieved the Supreme Highness realm in the ancient times. Now that he had returned to the future, even though he was only a ruler of Tao, he was able to kill a Heaven Highness with his bare hands. He even merged with Huang Fu-ju's avatar. The tables had turned. Who said Yi Zhaoxian and Song were the strongest cultivators in the 9 heavens immortal realm. Zhou Xuandao and Jia Yi were startled too. They immediately recalled by Zhongxing and the others. Before they turned into the ancient drawings, they learned that Qin Nan was Huang Fu-ju's reincarnation too. Even though they still believed in Qin Nan and were willing to serve Qin Nan as their master, they were still worried about him. Now you can all go to sleep in peace. Your second lord has completely risen to power. What a surprise, you have grown so much in just a year and a half. Even I feel like going back to the ancient times. Li Ji and Mo Xiaoli exclaimed. They still remembered Qin Nan was only a peerless ruler when they first stumbled into him. They could easily suppress him with a flip of their hand. However, Qin Nan could easily suppress them with a flip of his hand. Since everyone is here, I have a favor to ask, Qin Nan said sternly. Now that I've achieved a breakthrough, it's time for me to reopen the mountain. Therefore, I would like everyone to gather the cultivators of the Alliance. Regardless of their cultivation, I want everyone to witness it. During the year and a half, when Qin Nan was away, many factions in the 9 heavens immortal realm had been suppressing the Alliance. Almost 1,000 disciples of various cultivation levels had died. Even though Qin Nan had long held a grudge against the factions, and it was only a matter of time until he settled the score, the disciples of the Alliance were still under great pressure. Qin Nan might not be able to tell them the truth about his seclusion, but he could use it to boost their confidence and give them hope. All right, we'll gather them now. Ruler Chang Shao, Ruler Qin Yu, and the dual Dao progenitor realized what Qin Nan was up to after a slight ponder. They immediately took out their badges and gave out the badges. A moment later, the first layer of the undying cycle mountain was bustling. Every disciple below the master realm had gathered on the dojo. It was a huge crowd when looking from afar. The disciples outside the undying cycle mountain received the news that Qin Nan had come out of seclusion. His cultivation had improved tremendously, and he was planning to reopen the mountain. The rulers of Tao are here. Even Heaven Highness Ling Huang is here. It seems like Senior Qin Nan's cultivation has improved a lot during his seclusion. I heard the undying cycle mountain has 10 layers of mountains. He has already opened 4 of them. How many layers can Senior Qin Nan open? Rumors say that Zhou Di failed to open the 10th layer after he achieved the Supreme Highness realm. Senior Qin Nan is now in the peak ruler realm. I believe he can open the 6th layer, right? You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.